Chapter 1223. There are still 2 years left before the next Radiance Envoy and Radiance Light Knight Regiment selection. Xiang, if you really have any expectations, you must work hard to rush into the Radiance Light Knight Regiment. Otherwise, you will only get further and further away from the expectations in your heart, until you don't even have the qualifications to look up to them. Lu Chan did not directly expose Sun Ningxiang's maiden thoughts. Sun Ningxiang, who had just developed strange feelings, did not understand the meaning of her grandmother's words. However, in Sun Ningxiang's maiden dream, there was indeed a hazy expectation. However, compared to the expectation in her dream, Sun Ningxiang had a more important matter to tell Lu Chan. At that moment, Sun Ningxiang looked at Lu Chan with a firm gaze and said very seriously, "Grandma, I want Du Immortal Garden to merge with Sky City, become a branch faction of Sky City." When Lu Chan heard Sun Ningxiang's words, she did not react at first. Then Lu Chan fell into deep thought. Lu Chan suddenly realized that it was Lin Yuan who had saved her with the Moon Dew Revival Elixir. However, Sun Ningxiang did not mention letting Du Immortal Garden seek shelter with Lin Yuan. Instead, she wanted Du Immortal Garden to merge with Sky City. Moreover, Lu Chan found that her granddaughter had a tendency to transfer her gratitude to Sky City's city lord to Lin Yuan. When these two discoveries overlapped, Lu Chan's heart skipped a beat. During Du Immortal Garden's most difficult time, she had the pride of being the head of a top faction. Even if Du Immortal Garden perished with time, she was absolutely unwilling to let Du Immortal Garden become another faction's branch. This was the reason why Lu Chan had rejected the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's cooperation. However, if Lin Yuan was Sky City's city lord, the situation would be completely different. Not to mention that Lin Yuan and Sky City's city lord were indebted to Du Immortal Garden. Lin Yuan's identity and future, as well as Sky City's creation master resources. This would allow the Du congealing Immortal Garden to have a better future. It would also give Du Immortal Garden a chance to transcend the top factions. In addition, the determination in Sun Ningxiang's eyes and the feelings she had for Lin Yuan were also an important reason why Lu Chan was willing to compromise. Before compromising, Lu Chan asked Sun Ningxiang, "Xiang, tell me the truth. Fragrance, tell me the truth. Is Lin Yuan and the Sky City Lord the same person?" Hearing Lu Chan's affirmative tone, Sun Ningxiang hesitated for a moment before nodding. Seeing Sun Ningxiang nod, Lu Chan lovingly stroked Sun Ningxiang's hair and said, "Grandma is old. From now on, the Du Immortal Garden's decisions will be up to you. Grandma strives to live a few more years and be your solid support for a few more years. At least I didn't let down a holy item like the Lunar Dew Rejuvenation Pill." Seeing the surprised expression on Sun Ningxiang's face, Lu Chan revealed a warm smile. A new life with a smile. It was already the spring equinox. The sun of the spring equinox seemed warm, but it was the most dazzling. At this time, the sun gradually climbed to the center of the sky. In the Radiance Royal Court, an old man sat on a seemingly ordinary recliner that was filled with the rhythm of life. Looking at the dazzling sun, he quietly pondered. Not only did the dazzling sunlight not make the old man avert his eyes, but it also seemed to draw something from them. The old man's black eyes were coated with a layer of gold. At that moment, a man with peach blossom eyes and smiling eyes walked in. Upon seeing the old man, the smiling man hurriedly said, "You called me over in such a hurry. You called me here in such a hurry. Is it because you're having that old problem again?" Upon hearing that, the old man shifted his gaze away from the sun. He looked at the smiling man in front of him and said, "This old man's body is very strong. This old man's body is very strong. I haven't had that old illness for 5 or 6 years. Cicada cry, this old man sees that you have been keeping your disciple in the royal court recently. How does it feel to have a disciple?" Upon hearing that, Cicada cry could not help but rub his temples with a headache. Gao Feng is good at everything, but he is now wholeheartedly thinking about next year's tournament. He is so excited that he can't stop for a moment. Compared to improving my strength, I plan to cultivate Gao Feng's mind first. Upon hearing Cicada Cry's words, the old man was a little surprised. Cicada Cry seemed to be the most gentle person with a smiling face. However, in reality, Cicada Cry was an extremely rational and indifferent person. He did not expect Cicada Cry to still be so attentive to his disciple after such a long time. The old man originally did not think that Cicada Cry would accept a disciple, and was afraid that Cicada Cry would not be able to fulfill his responsibility as a master. But now, it seemed like he was worrying too much. Perhaps compared to Cicada Cry bringing Gao Feng to cultivate his mind, Gao Feng's appearance was also to train Cicada Cry's heart. The old man flipped his hand, and a blazing yellow wood box appeared in his hand. Seeing that the old man took out the item, Cicada Cry quickly reached out to receive it. After receiving the blazing yellow wood box, Cicada Cry heard the old man say, "The item inside is a drop of geocentric jade milk. Send this drop of geocentric jade milk to the Moon Empress. This geocentric jade milk should be able to increase the Moon Empress' lifespan by another year." Speaking up to this point, the old man's face revealed an obvious pain. The battle 10 years ago caused the 3 continents outside of the Radiance Federation to sink to the bottom of the sea forever. In that battle, 4 Freedom Federation immortals perished, but the Moon Empress attack also depleted most of her lifespan. According to the Moon Empress personality, how could she only enter seclusion for 10 years after that storm? Ever since the Moon Empress accepted a disciple, she had been paving the way for him. From this point alone, it could be seen that the Moon Empress didn't have much lifespan left. Otherwise, the Moon Empress wouldn't have chosen to pave the way, which she originally disdained the most. Only by watching her own disciple use his abilities to fight for a place in the world would it be in line with the Moon Empress pride. At the Moon Empress level, every breakthrough would require a huge risk. Every advancement was a gamble with the heavens. To experts, lifespan had always been the most precious thing in the world. Constantly increasing one's strength could only extend one's lifespan, but it still couldn't become eternal in the world. Therefore, if people at this level wanted to increase their strength, they first had to weigh the price of failure. Could they bear it? However, the Moon Empress had been breaking through frequently in recent years. This was the Moon Empress using her own method to make a final struggle with her lifespan. When the old man's face sank into a painful expression, Cicada Cry had already left the Imperial Court with the box. Cicada Cry had also personally experienced that storm. When 2 people who experienced that storm reminisce together, it would only make each other more sad. Cicada Cry, who had stepped out of the Imperial Court and was heading to the Radiant Moon Palace, softly said, "I have an old friend who carried a sword and was unwilling to return even after slaying the spring. I hope that you, who are as proud as the cold moon, still have 15 years to complete what you want to do." Lin Yuan, who was teasing the orange longevity rat in the manor, was completely unaware of all this. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1224. Lin Yuan had nothing urgent to do in the Divine Wood Federation. His master, the Moon Empress, had yet to come out of seclusion. He also needed to deal with the Blood Oath battle between the Blissful Sea clan and the Miao family. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to deal with all the matters in the Radiance Federation first before heading to the Divine Wood Federation to train in peace. Looking at the longevity rat jumping around in his hand, Xiao Luo's eyes lit up. He felt that this longevity rat would definitely become good friends with the Moon Empress Little White Rabbit. Of course, the premise was that the longevity rat did not snatch the rabbit's carrot. Otherwise, the rabbit would probably hide the carrot behind its tail again. Lin Yuan had been busy opening up the Divine Wood Federation situation in the past few days, and had not had a good rest. He could not help but feel a little sleepy while smelling the agarwood. Lin Yuan summoned Genius and arranged for Genius to call him at 1 p.m. He nestled on the water rhinoceros leather sofa and took a nap. While he was taking a nap, 4 figures in different parts of the main world also fell asleep with different moods. Download app to read books forever. Bei Su had been very fulfilling these few days, and he was also very happy. After sweeping a cursed stoneworm's work site, Bei Su finally received subordinates. With subordinates, Bei Su officially established his own faction. It was very difficult for ordinary people to survive in a place like the underground world. Therefore, Bei Su was very strict in selecting subordinates. Coincidentally, someone in this cursed stoneworm nest had awakened a willpower rune. However, The awakened willpower rune was useless in the arduous work of quarrying all day long. These people who had been engraved with the stoneworm curse mark did not dare to tell others about their uniqueness. They were afraid that others would treat them as aliens, or that the guards would treat them as threats and kill them. After obtaining the consent of these two subordinates, Baesu used the sharp shadow dark bat's exclusive skill, Bat Teeth Bloodline, on them. He turned these two subordinates into blood slaves. Next, Baesu only needed to sweep more underground dimensional rifts and find suitable source-type items for his two subordinates. This way, Baesu's faction's comprehensive strength would be greatly improved. From now on, Baesu did not need to do everything himself. This was a great progress for Baesu's development. Lin was riding the island whale in the boundless sea, following the team from the Azure Federation to the Radiance Federation. Lin had a leisurely life on the island whale's back. Other than increasing his strength, he was also looking forward to the next Celestial Body Conference. Unlike Lin's leisurely life, the one who changed the most was definitely Trey. Due to Lin Yuan, Trey had changed from a youth from a small tribe to a young man in these 7 days. He had become a Class 1 creation master recognized by the Hammer Kingdom. Because of this, his tribe, the Iron Hoof tribe, had become a 1-star tribe. Trey had become a Class 1 creation master at such a young age, and it had caused quite a commotion in the Hammer Monarch court. In order to show how much they valued Tally, the Hammer Kingdom sent a powerful royal court warrior to be responsible for his safety. When the Class 2 tribe, the Black Copper tribe, found out that Trey had become a Class 1 creation master and was valued by the Imperial Court, the Black Copper tribe was shocked. The Black Copper tribe changed their attitude and took the initiative to befriend Trey. He also promised that he was willing to work with the Iron Hoof tribe to develop high-grade energy ores and accompanying ores of gold-grade spirit materials, frost silver, just to form an alliance with the Iron Hoof tribe. The development of these events deeply shocked Trey. This made Trey even more aware of how much he had benefited from the Celestial Council. Because of this, Trey did not lose his direction at a young age. Trey firmly convinced his grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, and brother. He was prepared to move the Iron Hoof tribe toward the Divine Wood Federation's border according to Lin Yuan's request. Trey's choice was equivalent to giving up the high-grade energy ores and accompanying ores of gold-grade spirit materials, frost silver. The Iron Hoof tribe, which had never seen such wealth, was naturally unwilling to give it up. In the end, Trey moved to teach once every 7 days. His master, who had taught him to become a Class 1 creation master, finally convinced his family. A few days ago, the Iron Hoof tribe had embarked on a journey toward the Iron Hoof Federation's border. Zoe Erin was currently hunched in an alley in the Divine Wood Federation's Oak City. As a refugee, Zoe Erin had to be careful even when breathing in a place like the Divine Wood Federation, where life was worthless. During the last Celestial Council, Lin Yuan had treated Zoe Erin's injuries. However, Zoe Erin now had a large number of new injuries. In order to survive, Zoe Erin could not care less about her identity as a Gloom Envoy, and had to rummage through the garbage every day. The setback in reality made Zoe Erin even more determined to survive. The man's voice in the stars kept echoing in Zoe Erin's mind. Only by surviving will there be hope. Even if the price of this hope was being controlled and losing her freedom. Of course, Zoe Erin had not been completely fruitless during these few days of rummaging through the garbage for a living. Zoe Erin had found a mobile phone with a broken screen that could make blind calls. At the last Celestial Council, Zoe Erin still remembered that the body intertwined with countless laws and willpower had given instructions to the body formed by willpower beside her. It was to migrate from the Iron Hoof Federation to the edge of the Divine Wood Federation. This meant that the figure was likely to be at the edge of the Divine Wood Federation. After nearly a month of investigation, Zoe Erin knew that Oak City, where she was the closest big city to the Iron Hoof Federation. Therefore, Zoe Erin cherished the mobile phone she had picked up. Zoe Erin wanted to try and see if she could ask for the figure's mobile phone number at the Celestial Council. Then she would get in touch with the figure through this mobile phone that could only make blind calls. Otherwise, he would not be so lucky when his soul was damaged and the sacred source lifeform was on the brink of death. He was always able to survive after being beaten up. Zhou Yiren's skinny body was curled up in the alley like an insecure kitten. In this kind of life, Zou's senses were very light. Su Yiren starved for 2 days so that she wouldn't wake up in the middle of a deep sleep. He exchanged the food he picked up from a kind-looking vagrant for a glass of strong alcohol that even vagrants despised. Su Yiren, who had never drunk alcohol, actually started snoring in her sleep after downing a glass of strong alcohol. Su Yiren probably wouldn't wake up for at least half a day. Genius was a housekeeping beast, so it was naturally familiar with the wake-up service. Once it was 1 o'clock, Genius used its 8 long tails to tickle Lin Yuan's neck. Lin Yuan was already very ticklish, and with Genius's waving tail, he felt extremely itchy. Lin Yuan quickly sobered up with laughter. Chapter 12:25. After Lin Yuan woke up, he hugged Genius, which was tickling him, and gave it a fierce stroke. It lowered its head and meowed comfortably after being stroked by Genius. Lin Yuan then carried Genius to the water rhinoceros leather sofa and asked it, "Smart, are you planning to stay in the manor or return to the Spirit Lock spatial zone?" When Genius heard Lin Yuan's question, it quickly answered. "Lin Yuan, Genius wants to return to the Spirit Lock spatial zone and use the spirit fluid to split the soldier ration radish. Then take the army's rations radishes that have been split and plant them in the swamp world." As it spoke, Genius wagged its tail, its eyes sparkling. Upon seeing Genius' cheerful expression, Lin Yuan was rather curious. Hence he patted Genius's head and asked, "Smart, what are you thinking about? Why are you so happy?" Genius let out a meow and said, "Lin Yuan, there will be 15 soldier grain radishes after splitting. The swamp world's environment is very suitable for the growth of the soldier radishes. Recently, the wind-speed rapid antelope has not had any time to rest because of the crazy growth of the soldier radishes. Moreover, I don't think there's any point in keeping so many army rations radish branches. Why don't we bury all the branches of the army grain radish in the swamp world? The branches of the army grain radish would quickly turn into nutrient-rich humus in the presence of the fungi in the swamp world. There is an academic report about a Class 4 creation master leading a few pinnacle Class 3 creation masters to conduct an experiment on the soil mixed with various kinds of swamp soil. It has been discovered that there is a high possibility that a variety of swamp soils will fuse with an excess supply of humus, combining their advantages to form a compound type of swamp soil. With the speed at which the 15 army grain radishes are growing branches, I want to see if I can turn the entire swamp world's territory into a compound swamp soil." Upon hearing Genius' words, Lin Yuan couldn't help but raise his brows. Genius was now acting like a little scientist. Its mind was filled with ideas on how to help it develop its territory. It was indeed useless for Lin Yuan to store a large number of the soldier ravenous vine's branches. Although the branches of the army grain radish were very nutritious, and a human only needed to eat 1 leaf to fill their stomachs. However, the army grain radish's strength did not lie in its nutritional value, but in its rapid growth rate. In terms of nutrient content, many production-type phase fruits, stems, and leaves were much more nutritious than the soldier grain radish. However, these production-type phase definitely did not have the ability to grow 10,000 meters per day like the soldier's grain radish. When the army grain radish's rank increased, each army grain radish's existence was equivalent to a powerful food production base. With a production base like the military radish, which had a shocking output, Lin Yuan did not need to put an effort to store food. The army grain radish branches and leaves that he had previously collected in the swamp world, if he could really evolve the entire land of his territory into compound swamp soil. As more and more swamp soil was buried in his territory, the compound swamp soil formed in his territory would become stronger and stronger. At that time, not only would Endless Summer's sacred source life form, Arakawa orchid sprout, grow faster, but it would also grow faster. At the same time, his territory in the swamp world would also become a paradise for plant phase. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw a person walk in from the mansion's entrance. This person's face was filled with joy. It was Ji Feng. Before Lin Yuan could say anything, Ji Feng had already spoken to him first. Young master, my Fey Advance Order Water Lotus has given me instructions based on the exclusive skill that it obtained when it became a myth breed. Upon hearing Jifeng's words, Lin Yuan immediately became interested. He had seen with his own eyes how magical Jifeng's Karma Gladiolus and Command Water Lotus were. Among them, Lin Yuan valued Jifeng's Foretelling Water Lotus the most. It had the ability to foretell misfortune to the people he came into contact with every once in a while. The smile on Jifeng's face was so bright that the water lily's prediction was self-evident. Jifeng, tell me, what good news did you foresee? Jifeng said hurriedly. Young master, this good thing is a bit special, because this good thing isn't just for one person. When I first came to the manor, the foreordaining water lily had been making frequent predictions. In the beginning, I ordered the water lily to predict that an auspicious sign would appear on Wenyu. Then it was Lu Jielisan, the mother of bloodbath, endless summer, Zhou Luo, Hu Quan, and today it's you. The frequent occurrence of auspicious signs made me feel that things were a little strange, so I used the foreordaining water lily's testimony. Through repeated probing, I can confirm that everyone's auspicious signs are related to each other. To be able to make everyone's auspicious signs be related, I think the most likely reason is that this auspicious sign is aimed at the entire manor. Everyone will return to the manor to live, so it's tainted with the auspicious signs. With this idea in mind, I used my testimony to test it again. After saying this idea, I didn't receive a backlash from the Heaven Secrets, which means that my idea is right. Then, I continued to use my testimony to test the time. I can confirm that this auspicious sign for everyone in the manor will arrive within 2 days. Ap Jifeng's words were clearly a happy event, but Lin Yuan's brows twitched wildly. Lin Yuan remembered that when he had checked the foreordaining water lily's true data, he would receive a backlash from the Heaven Secrets when the prediction failed, and his soul would be severely injured. Jifeng knew this, but he still repeatedly tested it. It was said that curiosity killed the cat. Could Jifeng be a cat? Jifeng's behavior was equivalent to grabbing a wire and pretending to be a willow. The wisp youth. Lin Yuan felt that no matter what, he should remind Jifeng for his safety. Jifeng, it's better to use your testimony less. It's not a good feeling to have your soul injured. Jifeng chuckled when he heard Lin Yuan's words. Even if the prediction of bad luck fails, the backlash from the Heaven Secrets won't cause serious injuries to the soul. Young master, you forgot that my foreordaining water lily can heal soul injuries. I just need to use the foreordaining water lily to heal the damaged soul. Jifeng had suffered 10 years of soul torture, and the pain of the soul was already traumatized. Under normal circumstances, Jifeng naturally would not put himself in danger to explore an illusory auspicious sign. Recently, Endless Summer had brought Listen and Zhou Luo to Indigo Azure City to gather the Zheng family's resources. Jifeng replaced Endless Summer to oversee the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. After revealing its claws in Sky City, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had not encountered any trouble. Jifeng had been exceptionally idle in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce for the past few days. However, since Jifeng had followed Lin Yuan and received his life-saving grace, Jifeng naturally was not willing to be a useless person. Therefore, Jifeng wanted to do as much as he could. Even if this matter might hurt his soul, Jifeng did not hesitate. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1226. This auspicious omen appeared on Lin Yuan and everyone in the Return from Faraway Mansion. 10 years ago, Jifeng, who had watched his family die tragically in front of him, was already alone when he met Lin Yuan. After interacting with the people of the Return from Faraway Manor, Jifeng subconsciously treated the Return from Faraway Manor as his own home. Upon hearing Jifeng's words, Lin Yuan took a deep look at Jifeng and did not say anything else. Jifeng's simple words had conveyed too much information to Lin Yuan. Since Jifeng was willing to express his affection despite the damage to his soul, Lin Yuan naturally would not trample on this affection. Lin Yuan firmly remembered this affection in his heart. Moreover, Jifeng had been the young family head of the Whale Ocean Trade's Ocean Sky lineage, so he would certainly have a sense of propriety when doing things. According to Jifeng, There would be an auspicious omen for the entire mansion in these 2 days. Lin Yuan intended to be on full alert from now on. On one hand, it was to welcome the auspicious omen. On the other hand, it was to not let this auspicious omen, which should have appeared in the mansion, slip away. After reporting the situation to Lin Yuan, Ji Feng immediately returned to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. As the strongest expert in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, Ji Feng could not leave the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce for too long. After putting Genius into the Spirit Lock spatial zone and letting it distribute the soldiers' rations, Lin Yuan went to the 3rd floor and knocked on Wen Yu's door. Wen Yu's sleep was very light, and Lin Yuan only knocked twice before she woke up from her deep sleep. After opening the door, Lin Yuan found Wen Yu with a head of fluffy and messy ahogue. However, her eyes were abnormally awake at this moment. When she saw Lin Yuan, she opened the door and said to him, "Young master, come in and wait for me for a while. Come in and wait for me for a while, young master. I'll go wash my face and tidy up before carrying out the ritual and convening the Celestial Council." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan naturally followed Wen Yu into the room. The construction of the Return from Faraway Mansion had been completed for a long time. Wen Yu usually went to Lin Yuan's room to give him clothes and discuss the development of Sky City with him. However, unlike Wen Yu, who often went to Lin Yuan's room, Lin Yuan had never been to Wen Yu's room. Or rather, this was the first time Lin Yuan had been to a girl's bedroom other than Chu Xi's. After Lin Yuan sat on the chair in Wen Yu's room, Wen Yu went into the bathroom to take care of herself. He listened to the sound of flowing water while sizing up the furnishings in her room. Lin Yuan realized that the layout of her room was completely different from her clothing design style. Wen Yu's spirit chi clothing was often very elegant and luxurious. In terms of tailoring, they had always used the most exquisite palace style. Such a design style made Lin Yuan's daily spirit chi clothes look simple, but the embroidery patterns and accessories all revealed a sense of nobility. However, Wen Yu's room was minimalist. Apart from a bed, 2 chairs, and a large table, there was basically no other furnishings. In Lin Yuan's room, there were even some sculptures made of completely jade-like wood by Huquan. From the moment he entered the room, Lin Yuan could faintly smell a faint fragrance. This fragrance was different from the smell of flowers and plants. It had a distinct characteristic, and it smelled very gentle. If not for the fact that the impurities in his body had been completely cleansed and his sense of smell had reached the limits of humans, he would not have been able to smell it. This faint fragrance was easily overlooked by Lin Yuan. Just as Lin Yuan finished sizing up the room and was about to trace the source of this fragrance, Wen Yu had already walked out of the bathroom. Wen Yu walked out of the bathroom with a frown on her face. She was obviously thinking about a thorny problem. Wen Yu took 2 steps forward and walked to Lin Yuan's side. "Young master, do you have any plans for the Celestial Body Conference?" Based on her question, Lin Yuan knew that she was thinking about recruiting Su Yiren. Lin Yuan didn't find this strange. Wen Yu had investigated Su Yiren's background during the Celestial Body Conference, so she naturally knew Su Yiren's value. However, he felt that she was a little too worried. Compared to thinking about how to recruit Su Yiren, after 7 days of settling down, Zhou Yiren, who had experienced the hardships of the world, was now racking her brains to figure out how to join the Celestial Body Council. After pondering for a moment, Lin Yuan expressed his opinion on recruiting Su Yiren. "Not only do we not need to make any plans for the Sui Yiren, but we also don't need to plan ahead. If Zoel wants to join the Celestial Council, we need to set 3 rules for her. Su Yiren is now in the Divine Wood Federation. I'll meet her sooner or later when I'm training there." After meeting up with Su Yiren, healing her soul injuries and the sacred source life form that's on the verge of death is a must. Otherwise Su Yiren, who can't even summon a fae, is useless to us. It's just that Su Yiren's mind is now full of revenge. Through this Celestial Body Council, we need to change her mind. The Celestial Council needs companions who cooperate with each other and develop together, not a determined avenger. Upon hearing that, Wen Yu immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant and knew his plan for Su Yiren. It seemed that Lin Yuan was determined to win Su Yiren. At the same time, Lin Yuan's words also let Wen Yu walk out of the misunderstanding she had fallen into. after knowing Su Iren's identity as a dark envoy, when you valued Su Iren very much. In fact, rather than saying that when you valued Su Iren's ability, it was better to say that she valued Su Iren's identity more. Now Lin Yuan's words made when you realized that Su Iren's ability as a dark envoy was far more important than her identity as a dark envoy. What Lin Yuan valued was Su Iren's ability. This was also why Lin Yuan wanted to set 3 rules for Su Iren. From this point, when you could see that Lin Yuan's vision was far superior to hers. When you enjoyed the feeling of constantly improving by Lin Yuan's side. When you and Lin Yuan went to the training room and used the ritual to activate the sacred source life form, the Celestial Council. A grand event in the stars finally began again. When Lin Yuan and when you sat on the Leo and Libra thrones again, Lin Yuan found that 4 figures had appeared neatly in the northern and southern celestial seats. Among them, Lin sat on the Andromeda throne, Su sat on the Immortal throne, Tally sat on the Leo throne, and Su Iren stood in front of the Corona Australis throne. During the previous Celestial Council, Tally had signed a contract with the Leo throne without hesitation. He had become an official member of the Celestial Council. However, because of hesitation and distrust of the Celestial Council, Su Iren did not sign a contract with the Corona Australis throne. When Su Iren saw Lin Yuan and Wen Yu, she immediately prepared to sign a contract with the Corona Australis throne like Tally had done with the Leo throne. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:27. But just as Su Isin extended her hand towards the Corona Australis throne, she heard the lady sitting on the Libra throne speak calmly. Wait, if you want to join the Celestial Council, you have to prove your worth first. Wen Yu's words stunned Su Iren. In Zol's memories, Trey was not required to prove his worth when he signed the contract with the Leo minor. This made Su Iren feel like she was being treated differently. Although Zo Iren's life in the Divine Wood Federation was worse than a dog's, she was still in the form of a soul consciousness in a dream. Here Surin still had the pride of a dark envoy. If she had been treated this differently the last time, Zoel would have left the Celestial Council without hesitation. However, ever since the Celestial Assembly had ended, he had used the Astral Throne's function to transfer the Jasmine Lily's vitality to Su Iren and heal her injuries. This made Zoel realize just how powerful the Celestial Council was. This also made Zo Iren understand that even if she was in the Divine Wood Federation, the Celestial Council would still help her. In addition, he had said that as long as she was alive, there would be hope. This made Su Iren train herself for 7 days. As a result, Su Iren could not wait to sign a contract with the Corona Australis throne behind her the moment she entered the Celestial Council. Suel, who had long decided to join the Celestial Council, was naturally unwilling to give up this opportunity after being treated unfairly. Su Iren asked, looking straight at Wen Yu, "How do I prove my worth?" While Su Iren and Wen Yu were conversing, he once again checked Su Iren's memories. He now knew how Su Iren had survived the past 7 days. When Lin Yuan saw that Su Iren was about to sign a contract with Corona South, he had been prepared to stop her. In the end, Wen Yu got in front of him and stopped Su Iren. Since Wen Yu had taken the lead, he planned to hand Su Iren over to her. He wanted to see what Wen Yu would say and do. Seeing that Su Iren was asking her a question, Wen Yu answered directly. Proving a person's worth is not based on what they have, but what they can do. Can you cooperate with the Celestial Council without hiding anything? Su Iren fell silent. After a brief silence, Su Iren did not directly answer Wen Yu. Instead, he changed the topic and pointed at Tally, Lin and Bei Su. Can they guarantee that they won't cooperate with the Celestial Council? How would others know what a person is thinking? This kind of promise is like child's play to me. Now I'll answer you yes, do you believe me? Su Iren had just finished her sentence when Lin, who was not far away, interrupted her coldly. Don't forget why you joined the Celestial Council. What kind of oath did you make before entering the Celestial Council? Tian Chung is already giving you face by using the word cooperation. After the Celestial Council achieves your wish, you should do everything you can for the Celestial Council. When Lin rebuked Zo Iren, Bei Su and Tally also frowned at her. Zo Iren could clearly feel Lin, Tally, and Baisu's disgust for her. Yinlin's words brought Su Yiren to her senses. This was because Zoel, who had once again entered the Celestial Council, was thinking about how to survive and achieve her own goals. Indeed, she had forgotten how she entered the Celestial Council last time. At that moment, Yinlin heard the woman sitting on the throne of Libra speak in a calm tone. Right now, you're thinking about how to get more rewards from the Celestial Council. When your wings grow, you want to return to the Dark Continent and use your identity as a Dark Envoy to get a response from the members of the 7 Dark States in the central plains of the Dark Continent. Am I right? Wen Yu's words made Zhou Yiren's eyes widen. Because Wen Yu was talking about Zhou Yiren's current thoughts. It could be said that Wen Yu had completely seen through Zhou Yiren's thoughts. Previously, Zhou Yiren had been wondering how the 2 people sitting on the throne knew so much about her. Now, it seemed that there was something strange about this gathering. Or, the woman sitting on the throne of Libra had the ability to see through her heart. While Zhou Yiren was thinking, Wen Yu continued, I've always thought that people who can become Dark Envoys are not people who can't see the situation clearly. If you want to take revenge, the most basic thing is to have the strength to defeat 7th Page War. If you don't have the strength of 7th Page War, you'll only get the people close to you killed if you act rashly. You should know this very well. Now I'll give you one last chance. Let me know what you can do for the Celestial Council. Otherwise, you can continue to pick up the trash in the Divinewood Federation as a scavenger to eat and barely survive. Oak City is a huge city in the Divinewood Federation with a 4-star family, many 3-star families, and dozens of 2-star families. In a place like this where nobles are everywhere, the death of a refugee won't cause any ripples. At that time, no one will know that the dignified Dark Envoy was buried in a corner of an alley in the Divinewood Federation's Oak City like an ant. You know that I'm not saying this to scare you, and don't think that the contract with the Celestial Council is that simple. Signing a contract with the Celestial Council means that you're destined to fulfill the promise you made when you entered the Celestial Council. Otherwise, you'll pay far more than you get. Wen Yu's every word was like a hammer hammering down on Su Yiren's heart. Every word from Wen Yu was about the suffering that Zhou Yiren was currently experiencing. Wen Yu's omniscience, as if she could see through people's hearts, made Zhou Yiren feel a sense of fear. In the end, Zhou Yiren gritted her teeth and said, I can do many things. I can do a lot of things. Even if you give me a federation, I can help you run it in an orderly manner. As for the other things you want me to do, at the very least, you have to recover from my injuries. In addition, my Sacred Source life form is a little special. My Sacred Source life form's abilities are bound to each of my phase. If I don't recover from my near-death state, my Sacred Source life form will not be able to summon them. Even if I recover from my soul injuries, I won't be able to summon them. Zhou Yiren's words were arrogant, but when you knew that Zhou Yiren was not lying, there were a total of 7 federations in the Dark Continent. One of the tests for Zhou Yiren to become a Dark Envoy was to rule a federation for a year. From there, she would prove her ability in strategy and the overall situation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1228. Lin Yuan took over from Wen Yu's words and said to Su Yiren, if you choose to become a member of the Celestial Council, the Celestial Council will naturally not let you down. Your soul injury can be easily healed. You don't have to worry about that. What we should be discussing now is how to cure your Sacred Source life form. Su Yiren's eyes lit up. From Lin Yuan's words, Su Yiren knew that the Celestial Council had the ability to heal her soul. He also wanted to heal his Sacred Source life form, which was in a desperate state. In truth, Su Yiren was not very clear about the Absolute Love Poppy's injuries. After all, 7th Page War had crushed the flowers and stems of the Absolute Love Poppy into flower mud. Then the Absolute Love Poppy fell into a deep slumber in the depths of Zol's soul. If he wanted to communicate with the Sacred Source life form and investigate its condition, he would need to use his soul power. With her soul injured, Zhou Yiren had no way of checking on the Absolute Love Poppy's condition. But Su Yiren was certain that Absolute Love Poppy was still alive. In fact, under normal circumstances, as long as a plant's roots were still there, it would grow rapidly. It should be able to absorb nutrients to recover. It was just that the current absolute love poppy was too weak. In a state of near death, the absolute love poppy did not dare to casually absorb the nutrients. This was because once the absolute love opium poppy started to absorb the nutrients, the stump would come out of its dormant state. After coming out of its dormant state, the absolute love poppy would rapidly lose its life force from the broken stem. Once the life force generated from the absorbed nutrients did not reach the level of dissipation, the absolute love poppy would completely die. Subconsciously, Zoiran did not want her hopeless love poppy, who was on the brink of death, to take any risks. So Suiran demanded an exorbitant price. It's very difficult to cure my absolute love poppy. I can only think of two ways. The first is to plant my absolute love poppy on top of the top-grade living life soil. The second is to burn my absolute love poppy with life-extinguishing flames. Other methods might have the effect of recovery, but only these two methods are the safest. Otherwise, if I don't do it properly, my absolute love poppy might very well die. I don't want absolute love poppy to take the risk. When he heard Suiran mention the top-notch swamp soil, eternal life soil, he frowned. There were only so many Class 5 swamp dimensional rifts in the Radiance continent. The number of Class 5 swamp dimensional rifts that produced top-notch swamp soil was even more so. The Moon Empress had mentioned to him that there was a top-notch swamp soil master in the Radiance Federation. There was no everlasting soil in it at all. In other words, it was impossible to find the top-notch marsh soil eternal life soil in the Radiance Federation. He now had a territory in the swamp world, and it was very convenient for him to find live soil. However, in the vast swamp world, trying to find a specific kind of swamp soil was like looking for a needle in a haystack. There were often powerful dimensional creatures guarding the vicinity of the top-grade swamp. Given Lin Yuan's current strength, he might not be able to provoke the dimensional life forms guarding the top-notch swamp. When Suiran mentioned the life form Still Flame, Lin Yuan's brows immediately relaxed. If Suiran needed the life form Still Flame, it would save him the trouble. There was a ready-made life form Still Flame in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. During this time, the Twin Red Pagoda had been consuming the pure spirit chi and fire-type heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. A large amount of pure spirit chi and fire-type heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls had allowed the life form Still Flame to grow rapidly. It was already in a semi-mature state. Although the life form Still Flame produced by the Twin Red Pagoda was far less mature than the one that Endless Summer had devoured, it should be more than enough. However, it should be more than enough to produce plant-type sacred source life forms through burning. Since the absolute love poppy only needed to be burned with the life form Still Flame instead of consuming the life form Still Flame, Lin Yuan naturally had nothing to be stingy about. After speaking, Suiran immediately felt that she had said something wrong. The Dark Seven States had once obtained a piece of top-notch marsh soil eternal life soil. This piece of top-notch marsh soil eternal life soil was considered a precious treasure in the entire Dark Seven States. This piece of top-notch marsh soil eternal life soil was considered a precious treasure in the entire Dark Seven States. Suiran had only heard of the life form Still Flame's effects and had never seen it before. Suiran felt that her request was a little too much. She was no longer in the Dark Seven States, and the Dark Continent had fallen. She should no longer use the vision of a Dark Envoy to communicate with others. However, Suiran did not expect that as soon as she made her request, the man on the Leo throne said naturally, "In that case, sign a contract with the Corona Australis. In that case, sign a contract with the Corona Australis throne. I will go and heal your sacred source life form, the absolute love poppy." Lin Yuan's words made Suiran pleasantly surprised. At the same time, she was surprised by the resources Lin Yuan had. After receiving Lin Yuan's guarantee, Suiran hurriedly signed a contract with the Corona Australis throne. In Suiran's opinion, the more resources Lin Yuan had, the better it would be for her in the future. Just as Suiran signed the contract with the Corona Australis throne, the Corona Australis nebula above her head shone brightly. Suiran suddenly remembered the cell phone she had found while rummaging through the trash. Suiran was about to ask for Lin Yuan's phone number when he gave her a string of phone numbers. "Call this number in 5 days. This number will make the next arrangements for you. Lin Yuan gave Su Yiren the 2 cell phone numbers he had selected from the 5 Dry Cliff Bandits. The Dry Cliff Bandits were small fries in the Divine Wood Federation, and did not have complicated interpersonal relationships. Now that the Dry Cliff Bandits had been annihilated, no one would be able to call these 2 numbers anymore. Su Yiren had wanted to ask for Lin Yuan's phone number, but the words were already on the tip of her tongue. Su Yiren's pupils shrank when she saw Lin Yuan's ability to predict the future. As someone in a superior position, Su Yiren was well aware of how terrifying a person's thoughts could be. Lin Yuan and Wen Yu's omniscience had left a deep imprint in Su Yiren's heart. It was to let Su Yiren know that she could never lie to Lin Yuan in the future. Even if she lied, the other party would already know everything before she spoke. If Lin Yuan knew what Su Yiren was thinking now, he would definitely praise himself for giving out the phone number. In fact, the moment Su Yiren signed the contract with the Corona Australis throne, Lin Yuan and Wen Yu had already lost the ability to perceive Su Yiren's memories. Chapter 1229. Lin Yuan had revealed his phone number because he had learned from Su Yiren's memories that she had found a cell phone, and was planning to ask for his phone number. On the other hand, he had already wasted too much time communicating with Su Yiren. There was a time limit to the Celestial Body Conference, and he could not give the entire conference time to Su'ul. He had to take Yinlin, Teray, and Bei Su into consideration. Therefore, he did not wait for Su Yiren to ask before giving her his phone number. After making arrangements for Su Yiren, Lin Yuan turned to Wen Yu. Upon seeing him look at her, Wen Yu's lips moved slightly. According to her lips, he knew that the Celestial Council could only hold on for 7 more minutes. Therefore, Lin Yuan asked Yinlin, "Yinlin, let me know the demand for Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls in advance, so that I can prepare in advance." Yinlin was in the Azure Federation, and wanted to develop rare coral resources. The demand for Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls was definitely the highest. If Blue and the Floating Island Whale wanted to grow in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, they would need to constantly consume the Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls. Therefore, he planned to find out Yinlin's needs first. Otherwise, if Blue were to eat as much as she could, it would affect the trade in the future. In fact, Yinlin had already calculated how many Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls she could trade after the last meeting. Yinlin had also planned to talk to Lin Yuan about this after entering the Celestial Council. Lion, the more Heavenly Maiden grade water elemental pearls the better. As for the other attributes, I want at least 300 of each attribute. Upon hearing Yinlin's words, Lin Yuan was immediately shocked by Yinlin's huge resources. There were 4 types of elemental shellfish in total. Since he wasn't sure how many Heavenly Maiden level elemental pearls he could trade, he didn't have to worry too much about the elemental shellfish. Yinlin was already prepared to trade 900 Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls from him. If Bailan wanted to comprehend will, she needed mutated water the most. After completing this transaction with Yinlin, he would be able to obtain a large amount of strange water. With this water, Bailan's strength would increase by leaps and bounds. However, Lin Yuan was not satisfied with Yinlin's answer that the more the better. There was still some time before Yinlin arrived at the Radiance Federation. If Lin Yuan paused Blue's consumption of the water elemental pearls, given the current production of the aquamarine elemental shellfish in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, it was more than enough for him to hoard 5,000 Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls. If he really took out 5,000 Heavenly Maiden grade water elemental pearls, would Yinlin be able to exchange for it? I have a lot of Heavenly Maiden grade water elemental pearls. Give me a number, and I'll leave behind this number of Heavenly Maiden grade water elemental pearls. This way, I can use the other water elemental pearls freely. I don't have to wait to trade with you and keep the other water elemental pearls in my hands. Yinlin immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant. Therefore, Yinlin lowered her head and carefully estimated the supplies that she would bring to the Radiance Federation before saying, "I'm not sure. Lion, I want to exchange 2,000 Heavenly Maiden grade water elemental pearls. This time, I only got 4 top-grade mutant waters from my family, but I got a lot of advanced and intermediate mutant waters. According to my calculations, according to the Radiance Federation's price, I should be able to buy 2,900 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with a 12% premium. Yinlin's words made Lin Yuan's brows twitch wildly. As expected of one of the three great federations, Yinlin was worthy of being the fourth Azure envoy. The Yin family was also worthy of being one of the 12 Azure families. They indeed had a rich foundation. He could actually get 4 top-grade mutant waters at once. Even if Lin Yuan expanded the scope and got top-grade swamp soil, extraordinary flames and other supplies, let alone getting top-grade mutant waters. As long as Lin Yuan did not reach out to his master, the Moon Empress, he could forget about getting them easily. Once a faction obtained top-grade mutant flames, mutant waters and swamp soil, they would not take them out unless it was a matter of life and death. For Yinlin to be able to take out 4 top-grade mutant waters at once, it could prove her status in the family. On the other hand, it showed that Yinlin attached great importance to this trade with him. Although Lin Yuan was a little uncomfortable with the premium that Yinlin mentioned, he did not need to take out another 12% heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to make up for the premium. If he really did so, it would make Yinlin feel awkward. However, Yinlin thought that he was trading ordinary heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with him. Lin Yuan gave Yinlin all heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with Cloud Dream Lake and Fixed Bliss Life pearls. The difference was far from as simple as a 12% market premium. In just a few days, the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone had piled up a small mountain of elemental pearls. Lin Yuan's heart was abnormally full. This feeling of holding savings in his hands was really good. Tally and Bei Su were still fine listening to Lin Yuan and Yinlin discussing the trade. They did not have any concept of the top-grade mutant waters and heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls that Lin Yuan and Yinlin were talking about. With Bei Su and Tally's status, they did not have the ability to come into contact with resources of this level. However, it was different for Su Yiren. Su Yiren was in a state of complete shock. This trade involving 4 top-grade mutant waters and 2,900 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls shook her heart. Even when the Dark Continent's 7 federations traded resources, it would rarely involve such a huge exchange of resources at once. Su Yiren only had one thought in her mind. What was the background of the people in the Heavenly Council? The last time she had come, she had realized that this gathering was essentially a function of a sacred source life form. It was fine if the Heavenly Council was powerful. If they were not powerful, they would not have a sacred source life form. However, shouldn't the members of the Heavenly Council be pitiful people who wanted to sell themselves to the Heavenly Council? How could such people take out 4 top-grade mutant waters? Under the shock of the huge resource trade, Su Yiren's heart was thumping nonstop. Lin Yuan and Yinlin's trade made Su Yiren suddenly see the hope of recovering the Dark 7 states. After communicating with Yinlin, Lin Yuan asked Tally, "Tally, what's the situation in your tribe?" Tally hurriedly knelt on the ground and cupped his hands at Lin Yuan. "Thank you, Master, for teaching me to become a Class 1 Creation Master. Everything is fine in our Iron Hoof tribe." According to Master's suggestion, the Iron Hoof tribe has now moved toward the border of the Divine Wood Federation. According to Master's suggestion, the Iron Hoof tribe has now moved toward the border of the Divine Wood Federation. Lin Yuan had a strange expression on his face when he heard Tally call him Master. In fact, Tally was not Lin Yuan's master. Smart. If he had to call someone, Tally should also call Smart Master. Chapter 1230. Time was of the essence, so Lin Yuan did not bother with Trey's name. He was very happy that the Iron Hoof tribe had listened to his suggestion and moved in the direction of the Divine Wood Federation. When the Iron Hoof tribe moved to the border between the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation, it would be much more convenient for him to communicate with them. Lin Yuan still wanted to rely on the Iron Hoof tribe to open up the situation in the Iron Hammer Federation. Just as Lin Yuan was about to ask about Bei Su's recent situation, Trey suddenly said, "Master, I'm now a Class 1 Creation Master." "Master, I am now a Class 1 Creation Master, and can apply for tribal territories from the Imperial Court. When the time comes, you can tell me what area you like, and I'll apply to the Iron Hammer Empire. The land at the border with the Divine Wood Federation has never been valued by the Iron Hammer Empire. If I apply for the land at the border as a territory, I should be given a larger area. Upon hearing Trey's words, Lin Yuan immediately became interested. The underground palace he was currently building was at the border between the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation. It was deserted, but it was inevitable that people would pass by. If he could divide an area at the border of the Iron Hammer Federation as a territory according to Trey's words, then the Iron Hoof tribe, where Trey was, would be building a line of defense outside his underground palace. Lin Yuan's plan for the White Bone Lotus Sea of Flowers was to make it a forbidden area for the Agon continent's adventurers to come. After his plan was implemented, the Iron Hoof tribe's territory would inevitably enter a state of rapid development due to the gathering of a large number of adventurers. With that in mind, Lin Yuan asked Trey, if all the territories bordering the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation were divided into the Iron Hoof tribe's territory, what do you think the possibility is? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Trey opened his mouth in horror. He had never thought of such a question before. The land bordering the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation was not small, and it was more than enough to build a big city. However, this territory bordering the two federations was very dangerous. The Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation often fought against each other at the border or killed and looted the Deep Enlightenment Federation's caravans. This was why there had been no tribe stationed at the Iron Hammer Federation's border for so many years. Trey would lead the entire Iron Hoof tribe to migrate here without hesitation because it was Lin Yuan's suggestion. On the other hand, it was because Trey treated Lin Yuan as his master and trusted him very much. As long as Lin Yuan pointed out the path ahead, Trey's heart would not be afraid, no matter how dangerous the border region was. However, with his status as a Class 1 creation master, it was still possible for him to set up a plot of land with a radius of 10 kilometers. If he wanted to apply for the entire borderland from the Iron Hammer Imperial Court, he would need to be at least a Class 4 creation master. This was because the big cities in the Iron Hammer Federation were built around 4-star tribes. In the big cities of the Iron Hammer Federation, the 4-star tribes had absolute control. Now that Lin Yuan was interested in the entire border region, there was nothing he could do. Trey could not help but pout. Master, if you really want the entire border area between the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation, you might have to wait for a long time. I heard from grandfather that those Class 4 creation masters all have white beards. From Tally's words, Lin Yuan knew the conditions for wanting the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation's border. Previously, when Lu Jia had let the hurricane owlet moths explore the terrain, he had ordered them to fly to the limit and look down at the entire area. As a result, he found that the Iron Hammer Federation's territory was like an all-piercing into the Divine Wood Federation's hinterland. The location where his underground palace was built was where the all pierced. This land was equivalent to the key connecting the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation. If this key could be in his hands through official recognition, he had to try his best to take it. This would save Lin Yuan a lot of trouble. Lin Yuan naturally could not count on Trey as a Class 4 creation master. Putting aside whether Lin Yuan had the ability to make Trey a Class 4 creation master, even if he could, Lin Yuan would not do it. The appearance of an 8-year-old Class 4 creation master was enough to shock the entire Agility continent. God knew how many experts the Divine Wood Federation would send to assassinate Trey. Such an approach was equivalent to putting Trey in danger. Lin Yuan now had Master Hong Shun, Hu Tian Old He and Feng Shuang as his Class 4 creation masters. Any one of these 4 Class 4 creation masters could contract a disguise fey and disguise themselves as someone from the Iron Hammer Federation to join the Iron Hoof tribe. They could claim to be Trey's teacher and take this territory from the Iron Hammer Federation's hands. A creation master's ability was reflected in nurturing feys, improving their quality, and healing their damaged roots. It was difficult to determine if a person was a creation master from their appearance. In fact, even without Master Hong Shun, Hu Tian Old He, and Feng Shuang did not contract disguise feys. Even if Lin Yuan went on stage with genius, he would probably be able to pass the Iron Hammer Federation's interview. He would become a Class 4 Creation Master recognized by the Iron Hammer Federation. The Deep Brahman Federation was rich in scholars, causing the number of Creation Masters in the Deep Brahman Federation to be higher than the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation. There were many examples of the Deep Brahman Federation's high-class Creation Masters heading to the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation to develop. The Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation always attacked the Deep Brahman Federation's caravans and liked to plunder their supplies. However, the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation welcomed the Deep Brahman Federation's Creation Masters with both hands and feet. In an environment lacking Creation Masters, the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation both understood the importance of a high-class Creation Master to the Federation. A clan or tribe established by a high-class Creation Master was enough to support the development of a region and drive the strength of a region's spirit chi professionals. At that moment, Lin Yuan had a plan in his heart. However, he felt that there was no need to tell his plan to Trey at the moment. Trey, we'll talk about the territory when you move to the border. Lin Yuan knew that the Celestial Council only had about 2 minutes left before the end. Lin Yuan hurriedly turned his head to Bei Su. Bei Su had just opened up in the underground world and had a stomach full of things to say to Lin Yuan. In the end, Bei Su had only found a chance to talk to Lin Yuan since the beginning. However, Lin Yuan did not give Bei Su this chance. In the last 2 minutes, Lin Yuan used the Celestial Council's functional astral throne to send Bei Su a resource that he thought Bei Su needed most to survive in the underground world. This resource was the Heaven and Earth Fae, the Sun Reflection King Lotus. Bei Su's current spirit chi professional rank was stuck there, so Lin Yuan could no longer use the teleportation spirit fluid to continue enhancing Bei Su's phase strength. Chapter 1231. After giving Bei Su the Spear Shadow Dark Bat, Lin Yuan also gave Bei Su a Source-type Life Formation Rock Crystal. Before Bei Su comprehended more willpower runes, Lin Yuan no longer needed to prepare any more phase for him. Although the sun couldn't be seen in the underground world, the light that seeped through the rock layer was enough for the Sun Reflection King Lotus to absorb. At night, the Sun Reflection King Lotus could release the light it absorbed during the day and illuminate the space. With this sun-reflecting Pearl Monarch Lotus, Bei Su had the qualifications to establish a base. Moreover, because the Reflection Sun Monarch Lotus could be moved at will, Bei Su didn't have to stay in one place to seek development. This greatly increased Bei Su's initiative in establishing a stronghold. Upon seeing cold sweat seeping out of Wen Yu's forehead, Lin Yuan quickly said to Bei Su, "You should like this little gift." The word stopped, the group of stars dissipated, and the dreamer also woke up from his dream. In the end, Wen Yu's rest time was too short. She left the Celestial Council after exhausting her mental strength. Wen Yu swayed and fell to the side. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan hurriedly supported Wen Yu and handed her a few pieces of the roasted angelfish of bliss skin. After taking a small bite of the fish coat, the dizziness in Wen Yu's head gradually subsided. Lin Yuan, who had checked on Wen Yu's condition, spoke to her in a rare tone. "I'll go to the Star Web territory in a while and wait for the veteran faction, the Blissful Sea Clan, to find us. Go and have a good rest. Next time before the Celestial Assembly, you must ensure that you have sufficient rest. Otherwise, a long period of mental exhaustion will cause damage to your mind and affect the speed at which your mental power increases." Wen Yu had never seen him with such a strong attitude before. Upon hearing that, Wen Yu gently stuck out her tongue. For some reason, Lin Yuan's aggressiveness suddenly caused ripples in her heart. Wen Yu hurriedly said honestly, "Young master, I'll immediately return to my room and have a good rest after eating these fish coats. I'll sleep until tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, I'll be able to completely recover my overdrawn mental strength." Upon hearing Wen Yu's assurance, Lin Yuan's tone softened. "The mother of Bloodbath specially left a lot of grilled chicken wings for you. Big brother Lu also left some fish balls that he beat this morning. I'll make you a bowl of fishball noodles. You eat first before you sleep. Otherwise, how can I not eat for a day?" After saying that, Lin Yuan got up and left the training room for the kitchen. In order to cook a meal for his master, the Moon Empress, during the new year he had specially learned cooking skills from Wuxia. In addition, he had been cooking since he was young to support himself and Chu Ci. The following matters were not difficult for Lin Yuan at all. With Wuxia's soup and fish balls, the taste would definitely not be worse than Wuxia's. In fact, in order to save money in the Xia region, Lin Yuan might even be a little more skilled than Wuxia at cooking noodles. When Wen Yu went downstairs after eating the fish coat, she saw Lin Yuan walking out of the kitchen with fish ball noodles and chicken wings. Wen Yu hurriedly went up and took the cutlery from him. Wen Yu was chosen to be by Lin Yuan's side as an assistant. However, Wen Yu's ability as a creation master could not help Lin Yuan at all. Wuxia also took care of everyone's meals. Therefore, Wen Yu had to work hard on her clothes. Now that she saw her young master taking the initiative to do it for her, Wen Yu's eyes suddenly became hot. When Lin Yuan saw her lowering her head and starting to eat the noodles, he could not help but feel a little strange. He did not know why Wen Yu lowered her head like an ostrich when eating the noodles. She was just short of putting her entire face into the bowl. Lin Yuan got up and sat on the water rhinoceros leather sofa. He simply logged into Star Web with his Star Web card. As Sky City's city lord, Lin Yuan could not remember how long it had been since he had entered Star Web Sky City's private territory. Ever since Lin Yuan had built this territory, he had become a hands-off boss. He had thrown the entire territory to Wen Yu. It now seemed that the entire territory was managed by Wen Yu in an orderly manner, and the territory's exterior also maintained its original style. There were no decorations placed. This territory was still full of people like when Sky City's private territory had just been opened. Of course, these people were not here to snatch the fate letter. They had already finished snatching the fate letter in the morning. These people had formed teams to visit the interior layout of Sky City's Star Web private faction territory. Lin Yuan could not help but scratch the back of his head and thought to himself, "My Sky City's private faction territory is about to become a Star Web attraction." He opened the Star Web private territory list, and his Sky City was impressively ranked 7th on the visitors list. It had to be known that Sky City only issued 100 fate letters every day. The other territories that functioned as chambers of commerce had to receive hundreds of thousands of merchants every day. This showed how many people came to Sky City's private territory every day. After Lin Yuan arrived at the Star Web private territory, many people recognized his identity based on the mask on his face. Lin Yuan had come to the private faction territory this time to wait for the veteran faction, the Sea of Bliss, to come to him. Therefore, even if Lin Yuan did not want to change the tone of Sky City's Star Web private territory, he had no choice but to set up an entrance guard. Of course, after setting up the entrance guard, Lin Yuan's attitude was not as strong as the Sea of Bliss's people, who had directly kicked out the rest of the people in the territory. Lin Yuan quietly waited for the people watching inside Sky City to leave. As for those who had no intention of leaving, Lin Yuan went forward to remind them. Half an hour later, Sky City's Star Web private faction territory was empty. Lin Yuan sat on the chair and fiddled with the oath lily of the valley, waiting for the Sea of Bliss's Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao to come to him. A faint layer of moon suddenly appeared in the afternoon sky. A full moon slowly appeared in the moon. However, the afternoon sun was still dazzling, making it difficult for ordinary people to notice the changes in the sky. The full moon in the moon palace was constantly changing from gloomy to bright, round and waning, illuminating the world. Mystic Moon was in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace, and looked at Cicada Ming speechlessly. She did not know what important things Cicada Ming had to hand to the Moon Empress in person, and was not even willing to pass it on her behalf. If it was someone else, Mystic Moon would have already chased them out. However, Cicada Ming and the Moon Empress were both Her Majesties, and they had a close personal relationship. Mystic Moon did not have the qualifications to chase Cicada Ming out. However, the Moon Empress was in seclusion. Cicada Ming was in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace, which was only separated from the Moon Shadow Corridor. Mystic Moon felt that something was wrong. Suddenly, Mystic Moon saw Cicada Ming's eyes turn solemn as he stared in the direction of the Moon Empress' sleeping quarters. The lotus flowers in the lotus pond in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace closed their flower buds, and their stems were no longer as straight as before. Chapter 1232. In fact, it wasn't just the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace. All the flowers on the leaning moon mountain that had been tainted with the Moon Empress aura had closed their flower buds and hung their leaves. At a glance, it looked as if it was crying. Xianyu noticed this, and a worried expression appeared on her face. At this time, Xianyu could hear the cicada's voice sounding solemn. A myriad of beauties mourn together. The Moon Empress is too anxious. It's not that easy to take that step. Every attempt will cause you to sink into oblivion for 5 years. I can try dozens of times, but how will you have the chance to try again? Xianyu didn't think much of Cicada Cry's words at first. Xianyu's heart skipped a beat when she heard the latter half of the sentence. What did Cicada Cry mean? What did he mean by the Moon Empress wouldn't have a second chance? Just as Mystic Moon disregarded propriety and was about to ask Cicada Ming, he suddenly recalled the changes that had happened to the Moon Empress in the past 10 years. The Moon Empress transformation stunned Mystic Moon. Mystic Moon had been by the Moon Empress side for half a century. After half a century of interaction, Mystic Moon understood the Moon Empress better than he understood himself. 10 years flashed through Mystic Moon's mind, and he realized that the unforeseen event 10 years ago had changed the Moon Empress completely. Previously, the Moon Empress had the arrogance of looking down on the world and lofty aspirations. It was so arrogant and dazzling. Any prodigy would feel inferior when compared to the Moon Empress. However, in the past decade, apart from accepting disciples, the Moon Empress hadn't done anything major. He only focused on improving his strength in seclusion. In Mystic Moon's understanding, the Moon Empress' astounding strength wasn't due to her hard work. It was because the Moon Empress had an innate talent that other experts couldn't imagine. The Moon Empress' innate talent had determined that she could easily become a top-notch expert in the world. Furthermore, after the Moon Empress accepted the Young Highness as her disciple, she had been planning for the Young Highness every step of the way. This didn't match the Moon Empress' temperament from 10 years ago. If the Moon Empress had accepted the Young Highness as her disciple 10 years ago, she would have let the Young Highness roam freely. Just like how Supreme Chef treated Zhongzhe, he was only responsible for wiping His Highness's ass when he got into trouble. Only when His Highness had a clear understanding of the world would he pave the way for His Highness. It would never be like now, when the Little Highness was only 18 years old and had not seen the world yet, but he was already scheming for the Little Highness. The last time His Highness was in danger, he was trapped in the water world dimensional rift outside Indigo Azure City. When the Moon Empress found out that Pagoda Cannon was the culprit, according to the Moon Empress temperament, the Pagoda Cannon was the culprit. Even if the Moon Empress didn't dote on the young lord at all, she would still personally descend and clash with the Pagoda Cannon. Moreover, the Moon Empress doted on the young lord so much. 15 years ago, they had yet to experience that storm. It was 7th Page War's first time in the Radiance Federation. At that time, 7th Page War had yet to cause trouble in the Radiance Federation. This was because when 7th Page War drove the sacred source life form, the Radiant Chariot, over the Leaning Moon Mountain, the aura of the Radiant Chariot affected the vegetation on the Leaning Moon Mountain. As a result, the bright moon hung in the sky beside the blazing sun that should have been hanging high at noon. The bright moon in the sky suddenly fell from the dome like a waterfall of moonlight, smashing 7th Page War into a sorry state. Even the 7th Page War's sacred source life form, the Radiant Chariot, was hit with cracks. If not for the 2nd Page revival of the Pagoda Cannon, which was hidden in the dark, helping 7th Page War escape, the Moon Empress would not have easily let 7th Page War leave. This was the case 15 years ago, but 15 years later, the Moon Empress had endured the situation after learning about it. The various changes made Mystic Moon's heart clench. The anxious Mystic Moon only had one thought. Could something have happened to the Moon Empress during that incident 10 years ago that she didn't know about? At that moment, the Moon Empress was sitting in front of the bed. Moonlight constantly spread out from the moon pattern on the Moon Empress' forehead. The Moon Empress' long hair and eyebrows were all dyed the color of the clear moon. In between breaths, the Moon Empress spat out thousands of rays of moonlight, making her look like an extraordinary person. At that moment, the Moon Empress' tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. When the Moon Empress opened her eyes, there was a trace of unyielding arrogance. However, slowly, the Moon Empress' arrogance gradually became complicated. Little White Rabbit, who was lying obediently on the Moon Empress' knee, quickly handed over its carrot to the Moon Empress. It looked as though it didn't want the carrot anymore, and was giving it all to the Moon Empress. Upon seeing this, the Moon Empress revealed a cold smile. The Moon Empress gently pushed the carrot that Little White Rabbit had handed over. Zishi, it's useless. My soul's power has been depleted. Without enough soul power, I can no longer use my life providence to see how to walk on that path to heaven. As she spoke, the moon pattern on the Moon Empress' forehead gradually dimmed. The Moon Empress paused for a moment before continuing. The life providence will be locked. After the life providence is locked, it will be silent for 5 years. Zishi, this is my life. At this point, the Moon Empress did not continue speaking. Instead, she lowered her head and looked at her white and slender palms. The Moon Empress had been breaking through one after another, and had never tasted failure. This was the first time she tasted failure during a breakthrough. However, this first failure would be the end of everything. At that moment, the sound of cicadas accompanied by a gust of wind entered the Moon Empress' sleeping quarters. The sound of cicadas echoed, and it was as though several cicadas were separated from the sound. When each cicada flapped its wings and sang, it was as though it was weaving a world filled with soul power with musical notes. One cicada, one world, one song, one Bodhi. Tens of thousands of Bodhi lights appeared beside the Moon Empress. The Bodhi sprouts grew into giant trees and bore Bodhi seeds, which then fell on the Moon Empress' body. Every Bodhi seed that fell would replenish the Moon Empress' exhausted soul power. The gust of wind lingered around the Bodhi tree. It was originally a head-on wind, but it calmed the Moon Empress' fluctuating mind. With the help of the cicada's sound and the gust of wind, the Moon Empress' soul power was instantly restored. The Moon Empress immediately closed her eyes again. During this period of time when her life providence was about to be sealed, the Moon Empress closed her eyes. During the period when the life providence was about to be locked, the Moon Empress launched a final attack on the path to heaven. At that moment, Cicada, who was in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, was off the ground, and the gust of wind surrounded Cicada's body. Cicada's hand was holding a cicada that was constantly shaking its wings and chirping. At that moment, a dragon horn grew out of Mystic Moon's head, and its body was covered in silver patterns. However, Mystic Moon, who had entered combat mode, was firmly bound to the spot by a gust of wind. Cicada lowered its head and said to Mystic Moon, Lotus 32. 32 lotuses, 23-year cicada. In order to help the Moon Empress, I passed the kind cicada's sound that the kind cicada had accumulated for 23 years to the Moon Empress. You should know what my kind cicada's effect is. ABC. Chapter 1233. I'm helping the Moon Empress, so retract your aura. Otherwise, if your aura erupts, it might distract the Moon Empress, who is fighting against the heavens. Xian Yu's eyes flickered when she heard the first half of Cicada Cry's words. However, he had no intention of stopping. The second half of the cicada's words made Xian Yu struggle for a moment. He decisively dispersed the aura on his body. Mystic Moon had a certain understanding of Cicada Cry's signature Fey, the kind voyage cicada. Among the 13 His Eminences, only His Eminence Cicada Cry was a pure support-type spirit chi professional. Every year that the cicada of Merciful Boar accumulated its melody of Merciful Boar, it could help the target recover their soul energy once. The fact that Cicada Cry was willing to give all the compassionate voice of the cicada of the Merciful Voyage, which had been accumulated for 23 years, to the Moon Empress meant that Cicada Cry didn't have any bad intentions. Not only did Cicada Cry give the Moon Empress 23 years of compassionate voice, but it also activated the sacred source life form, Intent Dispelling Wind. Every time the sacred source life form's Intent Unraveling Wind was used, it would reduce 1% of the owner's lifespan. Mystic Moon, who had calmed down, knew that Cicada Cry had sacrificed so much, and was even willing to consume his lifespan. It was impossible for him to harm the Moon Empress. At the same time, Xianyu was secretly shocked by Cicada Cry's strength. In that instant, Cicada Cry had suppressed him to the point where he couldn't move. This meant that Cicada Cry and the Moon Empress had both taken that step and were much stronger than him. According to the strength of the pressure, Mystic Moon was basically certain that Cicada Cry's strength was inferior to the Moon Empress. But it wouldn't be too far off. Just as Mystic Moon was about to ask Cicada Cry why the Moon Empress didn't have a second chance, the Moon Empress figure had already passed through the Moon Shadow Corridor and arrived at the inner palace. At that moment, the Moon Empress, who was hugging the bunny, was no different from usual. Seeing Chan Mingyue floating in midair, he said, "Against the wind, Jerry, Cicada Ming, you've made a lot of progress these past few years." Hearing this, Cicada Cry raised his hand and a blazing yellow wood box appeared in his hand. Upon seeing the box made of blazing yellow wood, the Moon Empress' eyes flickered with an indescribable emotion. Mystic Moon handed the blazing yellow wooden box to the Moon Empress and said, "This is the geocentric jade milk the old man gave you. After drinking this drop of geocentric jade milk, it will increase your lifespan by 1 year. I'll leave first. Take care." For the Moon Empress to come out so quickly meant that she had failed to break through to that realm. Fickle people were often the most emotional. Cicada Cry, who knew that the Moon Empress did not have much lifespan left, did not wish to stay in the Radiant Moon Palace any longer and see an old friend who would turn into bones in a few years' time. Cicada Cry, who had always been calm, could not help but feel an urge to charge into the Freedom Federation and start a massacre. The Moon Empress looked at the blazing yellow wood box in her hand with a complicated expression. "Thanks for this time. I owe you a favor. I will return it in the future. Also, thank the old man for me." After the cicadas left, the frantic Mystic Moon couldn't help but ask the Moon Empress, "Moon Empress, your body." The Moon Empress handed the blazing yellow wooden box to Xianyu and said, "All right. This time, I failed to break through to the next realm. My fate will be dormant for 5 years, and my lifespan will be shortened. I still have 3 years. Send this drop of geocentric immortal milk to Little Yuan when he returns from the Divine Wood Federation." Mystic Moon panicked when he heard the Moon Empress words. Xianyu had never heard of any of this before. However, now was clearly not the time to dwell on this issue. The Moon Empress did not have much lifespan left. If the Moon Empress used this drop of geocentric immortal milk, her lifespan would immediately increase by 1 year. Under such circumstances, why didn't the Moon Empress use the geocentric immortal milk herself? Why did she give the geocentric immortal milk to His Highness? Could it be because the geocentric immortal milk could cleanse the body of impurities and allow it to be reborn? Even Mystic Moon, who had always been obedient to the Moon Empress, couldn't help but suggest stubbornly, "Moon Empress, I feel that this geocentric immortal milk should be used by you. The little prince is still young. With the little prince's talent, even without the geocentric jade milk, there will be a chance for him to shed his mortal body in the future," Yang Kai said. The Moon Empress looked up at the sky when she heard Mystic Moon's words. With the help of Cicada Cry's main fae, the compassionate cicada, and the sacred source life form, the intent unraveling wind, the Moon Empress had once again used her life providence to attack the path to heaven. In the end, the Moon Empress actually managed to see through some of the secrets of the path to heaven with her final attack. The Moon Empress felt that it was very likely that she would be able to see through the path to heaven the next time her life providence was revived. However, the Moon Empress also knew that her lifespan couldn't wait any longer. Even if he took this geocentric jade milk, he still wouldn't be able to wait for the next 5 years. Treasures like the geocentric jade milk that could increase one's lifespan were not to be eaten casually. After a person took the geocentric jade milk, a treasure that could increase their lifespan, they would need a period of time to digest the medicinal efficacy of the treasure. In other words, once the geocentric jade milk was consumed, it would take 3 to 4 years to completely increase 1 year of lifespan. Not to mention that treasures like the geocentric jade milk that could increase one's lifespan were hard to find. Even if it was easy to find, the The Moon Empress wouldn't be able to use other life-extending treasures to extend her lifespan for 3 to 4 years after consuming the geocentric jade milk. His fate was set. No matter how proud the Moon Empress was, she had to acknowledge her fate. In the Moon Empress' opinion, giving this drop of geocentric jade milk to Lin Yuan was the best choice. In the last moments of her life, the Moon Empress' only hope was to see Lin Yuan grow step by step, to become a Radiance envoy, and to become a happy person. It was also the Moon Empress who would groom Lin Yuan into a Radiance envoy. In the last moments of his life, it was the most meaningful thing he could do for the entire Radiance Federation. Upon seeing Mystic Moon's worried expression, the Moon Empress explained softly, "Only Cicada Cry and the old man know about my body's condition. It's fine if you find out about this matter from Cicada Cry, but don't tell Little Yuan and Cold Moon. Mystic Moon, you should be clear about the impact this matter will have on others." When Mystic Moon heard the determination in the Moon Empress words, he quickly swallowed his words. Looking at the blazing yellow wooden box in his hand, Mystic Moon said, "Moon Empress, His Highness called you in the morning." "Moon Empress, His Young Highness called you in the morning. Why don't I inform His Highness now? Why don't I inform His Highness now? Originally, we agreed to inform His Highness as soon as you come out of seclusion." Mystic Moon felt that in this world, only Lin Yuan would be able to persuade the Moon Empress. However, the Moon Empress had clearly said that she didn't want him to tell Lin Yuan about this matter. If it was in the past, Mystic Moon would definitely listen to the Moon Empress' instructions. However, in order for the Moon Empress to live for 1 more year, Mystic Moon couldn't care so much anymore. Mystic Moon had already decided to inform Lin Yuan about this matter, even if he would be punished by the Moon Empress. ABC. Chapter 1234. When the Moon Empress heard that, a trace of gentleness flashed in her eyes. "In that case, you don't have to worry. There are still a few hours before dinner. Little Yuan hasn't had dinner with me in the Radiant Moon Palace for a long time. Little Yuan can come to the Radiant Moon Palace to have a meal with me tonight." Before her fate was decided, the Moon Empress would rarely take the initiative to look for Lin Yuan to have a meal in the Radiant Moon Palace. It was true that the Moon Empress liked Lin Yuan to be by her side, but she also hoped that Lin Yuan could fight for a bright future outside. But now, fate had been decided, and there was no turning back. As an expert who relied on strength to speak, the Moon Empress understood what it meant to die. He knew that everything ended after death. There was no such thing as an afterlife. At the thought of the remaining 3 years of lifespan, the Moon Empress only hoped that Lin Yuan could come to the Radiant Moon Palace a few more times when he had the time without affecting him. As her disciple, Lin Yuan was undoubtedly the person closest to the Moon Empress. Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Mystic Moon's nose involuntarily turned sour. The current Moon Empress gave Mystic Moon a feeling of a hero past her prime. Based on the Moon Empress realm, she was in the prime of her life. The Moon Empress, who was in her prime, had no choice but to guard her remaining 3 years of lifespan. However, there was nothing Xianyu could do about it. If possible, Mystic Moon was even willing to exchange lifespan with the Moon Empress. 3 years later, his lifespan would be exhausted and he would die. The more he saw the relieved expression on the Moon Empress' face, the more his heart ached. Xianyu, who couldn't bear to look at the Moon Empress' expression, tilted her head and said softly, "Moon Empress, His Young Highness is here to enjoy the evening meal. I'll order my men to go and prepare." Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress placed the listless Zishi on the jade table. "Why don't we just let Little Yuan consume the geocentric immortal milk tonight? After taking the geocentric immortal milk, Little Yuan should be able to contract the golden wing. In order for Little Yuan to perfectly absorb the geocentric immortal milk, we need to add more soul-protecting spirit ingredients to our dinner tonight. This Empress has nothing to do, so let this Empress prepare dinner. Xianyu, come and help me." Upon hearing that, Mystic Moon knew that she could not take this opportunity to inform Lin Yuan. Seeing that the Moon Empress was still walking with her usual firm and noble steps, Mystic Moon's throat tightened. "Moon Empress, Black Moon will accompany you 3 years later." Upon hearing Mystic Moon's words, the Moon Empress immediately reprimanded. Xianyu, what nonsense are you talking about? After I leave, you will still have a life that belongs to you. I won't make plans for your future, but I still hope that you can help little Yuan more. As she spoke, the Moon Empress could not help but think of Lin Yuan's performance during the Blood Oath Extreme Duel in Sky City. In just a few short months, Sky City had developed from obscurity to a behemoth in his hands. The Moon Empress' heart was filled with gratification and pride. Hearing this, Xianyu's usually clear and bright face couldn't help but become excited again. Moon Empress, you didn't allow me to tell Cold Moon and the Young Highness about this. You know Songyu's temper the best. Once Songyu finds out, she will definitely make the same choice as me. Also, Lin Yuan is your disciple. Your feelings for the Young Highness are the same as the Young Highness' feelings for you. If the Young Highness is in danger and has only 3 years of lifespan left, will you accept it? Upon hearing Mystic Moon's words, the Moon Empress turned to look at Mystic Moon deeply and didn't say anything else. Mystic Moon and Cold Moon had both accepted disciples. After 3 years, the bonds between Mystic Moon and Wen Yu, as well as Cold Moon and Chu Ci, would become deeper. At that time, Mystic Moon and Cold Moon would make the right choice. As for Lin Yuan, the Moon Empress had considered many aspects before making her choice. If she told Lin Yuan about her situation, would he still feel at ease using the geocentric jade milk? If she told Lin Yuan after he drank the geocentric jade milk, he would definitely not feel good. Lin Yuan had just turned 18 this year, and the next 3 years would be the 3 years where he would improve the fastest. During these 3 years, the Moon Empress could still protect Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress didn't want Lin Yuan to have any distractions because of her. It would affect Lin Yuan's progress in the next 3 years. The Moon Empress had prepared sumptuous ingredients for tonight's dinner. After the jade-pecking blood swallow evolved to suzerain, the bird's nest would also have the quality of jade. After the jade-pecking blood swallow's jade-like bird's nest was stewed, it could replenish one's blood qi for a period of time. It was just like a blood pump for blood production. The jade-pecking blood swallow's bird's nest was comparable to the life-form silence among the fire-type spiritual ingredients. At present, there were 16 or 17 other ingredients that were on the same level as the jade-pecking blood swallow's nest. If any of these ingredients were to appear in the world, it would cause a huge uproar in the outside world, and cause various factions to fight over them. In the origin world, countries that had good relations with each other would often give each other national gifts. Any one of these ingredients was enough to be given as a national gift to a foreign country. It was obvious how precious these ingredients were. Seeing how the Moon Empress handled these ingredients without blinking, Mystic Moon knew how much she was willing to give Lin Yuan. If the Moon Empress used these ingredients herself, she definitely wouldn't use so many at once. However, when it came to Lin Yuan, the Moon Empress would not care about the usage and cost of these precious ingredients. However, in order for Lin Yuan to perfectly absorb the geocentric jade milk's energy and shed his mortal body, every ingredient here was indispensable. He saw that the Moon Empress was determined to let Lin Yuan consume the geocentric jade milk tonight. Mystic Moon increasingly felt that she should personally make a trip to the return from faraway mansion and explain the Moon Empress situation to Lin Yuan. While Mystic Moon was pondering, he didn't know that the Moon Empress had already seen through his thoughts. Xianyu looked at the time and said to the Moon Empress, "Moon Empress, it's getting late. I will go invite the young lord now." Just as Mystic Moon finished speaking, the Moon Empress looked at Mystic Moon and spoke meaningfully. "Xianyu, you handle the ingredients here. This Empress will personally call little Yuan. I've already made up my mind. Don't disappoint me tonight." After speaking, the Moon Empress turned and left the kitchen. Looking at the Moon Empress back view, Mystic Moon's eyes revealed a mournful expression. Lin Yuan was already in Sky City's private faction territory, waiting for the Blissful Sea Clan's current family head, Qi Wangyang, and young family head Qi Haitao. Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao carefully stood in front of Lin Yuan. However, their heads were lowered, and their expressions weren't looking good. Qi Wangyang's forehead was covered in fine cold sweat. At that moment, Lin Yuan was looking at Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao as though he was looking at fools. Exciting, truly exciting. Your blissful sea clan is really scheming. Are you treating our Sky City as fools? 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1235. Upon hearing his words, Qi Haitao and Qi Wangyang were shocked. The two of them quickly raised their heads, wanting to explain. However, Lin Yuan did not give them a chance to explain and continued speaking. I don't know what you're thinking. You're still thinking of doing business with Sky City in this life and death situation. You don't have the right to talk business with Sky City right now. The Blissful Ocean Clan has offended the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. The Miao family's Beast Creation Garden is applying to the Spirit Guards for a blood oath battle with the Blissful Ocean Clan. If the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden insists, the Spirit Guards will enforce it even if you don't agree. It's impossible for the Blissful Ocean Clan to win against the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. According to the rules of the Blood Oath Extreme Battle, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden will be able to decide your life and death, as well as the assets of the Blissful Ocean Clan. Do you think the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden will let you and your son live? Each of Lin Yuan's words was like a knife stabbing into Qi Haitao and Qi Wangyang's hearts. It was because of this that Qi Haitao and Qi Wangyang were at their wits' end. He braced himself and found Sky City, which had a feud with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. The two of them had come here with the intention of fomenting the enmity between Sky City and the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden in exchange for certain benefits. But based on Lin Yuan's reaction, Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao knew that this path was no longer viable. After Qi Haitao and Qi Wangyang fell into a long silence, Lin Yuan's brows furrowed tightly. It seemed like Qi Haitao and Qi Wangyang had yet to understand the situation. The Miao family had just started the Blood Oath battle with the Blissful Ocean Clan at the Beast Creation Garden. It was not enough for Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao to feel a sense of impending death. Under such circumstances, there was no point in continuing the conversation with Qi Haitao and Qi Wangyang. Just as Lin Yuan was about to give up, Qi Wangyang lifted his head and revealed a fawning smile at Lin Yuan. She then asked Lin Yuan cautiously, "Just now, I was blinded by lard and offended the city lord. If the city lord can help the Blissful Sea Tribe overcome this crisis, we, the Blissful Sea Tribe, will give you 50% of the shares of Sky City. When the time comes, the Sea of Bliss will give half of their profits to Sky City. Sky City won't have to worry about the management and operation of the Sea of Bliss. Sky City can also exchange for top-grade angelfish of bliss from the Blissful Sea Tribe with 50% of the shares." Qi Wangyang quickly focused his attention and looked into Lin Yuan's eyes. 3 seconds later, Qi Wangyang saw that Lin Yuan had no intention of nodding, so he continued speaking. According to the rules of the Blood Oath battle, after Sky City helps the Ocean Clan of Bliss defeat the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden, the Ocean Clan of Bliss will have full authority over the resources and the lives of the members of the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. When the time comes, we, the Blissful Sea Tribe, will hand over this power to Sky City. Sky City will take over all the resources of the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden and decide the fate of the Miao family. Upon hearing Qi Wangyang's words, Lin Yuan laughed in anger. Before Qi Wangyang, the clan head of the Ocean Clan of Bliss, had sought Sky City's help, he had been dreaming of taking over the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's resources. Lin Yuan felt that even a pig's brain would not be dreaming of such a big dream at this time. Lin Yuan did not intend to kill the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. Otherwise, after the Blood Oath battle with the Zheng family, Lin Yuan could use the excuse that the Miao family had experts for the Zheng family to launch a Blood Oath battle against the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. However, Lin Yuan did not do so. On one hand, the Creation Master resources in the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden were not useful to him. On the other hand, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden had a relationship with the Whale Ocean Trade's 10,000 flags. Lin Yuan also wanted to use the cooperation between the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden and the Whale Ocean Trade's 10,000 flags. He wanted to see if he could get another strange plant seed from the Whale Ocean Trade's 10,000 flags. With the strange plant seed, Red Thorn's tongue of Relinquish could continue to evolve. Therefore, even if he defeated the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden in the Blood Oath battle, Lin Yuan would only harvest the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's resources. In order to keep the whale ocean trade wary of the Beast Creation Garden. After the Beast Creation Garden lost 3 Emperor-class experts, if they found him again, he might have to create a few more Emperor-class experts for the Beast Creation Garden. Before he obtained the strange plant seed from the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden, Lin Yuan did not want to kill the Miao family. I'm going to tell everyone that I've been using the reading app recently. There are many book sources, all books and updates quickly. Since Lin Yuan was wearing a mask, no one could see the true meaning behind his smile. Qi Wangyang subconsciously thought that Lin Yuan was smiling because his words had worked. Qi Wangyang quickly struck while the iron was hot. City Lord, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden sent 2 Emperor-class experts because they wanted to help the Zheng family destroy Sky City. If you attack the Miao family now, not only will you have a good reason to do so, but you can also show Sky City's strength. Let Sky City be respected by the other factions. If Sky City defeats the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden in the Blood Oath battle, Sky City will at least be ranked in the top 15 next year. Lin Yuan was now extremely annoyed with Qi Wangyang. Lin Yuan could accept making a deal with a fool. However, he could not accept making a deal with a fool who did not know what was good for him. The YMSB card had the function of binding with the cell phone. If it was an internal matter, there would be a reminder. Seeing that his master had called him, Lin Yuan immediately retreated to the private territory. Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao looked at each other in dismay. The boastful Qi Wangyang's face immediately darkened. Bean-sized beads of sweat rolled down his face. The blissful Sea Clan and Sky City had previously cooperated with each other. Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao knew that in their cooperation with Sky City, they had used the blissful immortal fish to cheat Sky City. Therefore, when looking for help, Qi Wangyang had not thought of Sky City at first. He knew that Qi Wangyang had shamelessly visited many top factions and had been rebuffed. Then he turned his gaze to Sky City. But now he seemed to have angered Sky City's city lord. What should he do now? Lin Yuan picked up the Moon Empress's call and heard that she had come out of seclusion. She asked him to go to the Radiant Moon Palace to have a meal together. Lin Yuan hurriedly said with a smile, "Master, I haven't had time to take a bath since I came back from the Divine Wood Federation. I'll head to the Radiant Moon Palace immediately after." After hanging up the phone, Lin Yuan waved his hand and held the longevity rat in his hand. He said to the longevity rat, "Little thing, you'll be able to see your true master in a while." 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1236. Before the longevity rat received the pure spirit chi baptism and metamorphosed into a fae, it already had extraordinary intelligence. Although it was not as intelligent as a housekeeping beast-like genius, it was not much different from Chimey. It was similar to Chimey before it had metamorphosed into a fae. The longevity rat, which had transformed into a fae, could not speak yet, but it could easily understand Lin Yuan's words. For example, when Lin Yuan fed the soldier radish to the longevity rat, he found that it preferred to nibble on the soldier radish's vine stem. The vine stem's nutrient content was far less than the soldier radish's leaves. Therefore, Lin Yuan asked the longevity rat to nibble on the soldier radish's leaves. Although the longevity rat preferred to eat the stem, it still obediently ate the leaves. Under Lin Yuan's command, the longevity rat still obediently ate the leaves. The longevity rat found that Lin Yuan's attention was on other things and did not have the energy to care about itself. Only then would it nibble on the soldier radish's vine stem and turn around to peek at Lin Yuan. It was as though it was afraid that Lin Yuan would find out that it was secretly eating. This level of intelligence was not much different from a 5-year-old human child. When it heard Lin Yuan say that he was going to find a master to send it out, the longevity rat immediately spun around on Lin Yuan's palm. It was so anxious that it kept stomping its feet and looked at Lin Yuan with pitiful eyes. It had an expression that said, "How can you not want me when I'm so cute?" Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan quickly circulated his spiritual power, and pure spirit chi spread out from his palm. Lin Yuan thought that the pure spirit chi from his palm would be enough to appease the longevity rat. Who would have thought that after sensing the pure spirit chi, the longevity rat would feel even more wronged? Its small eyes even squeezed out 2 drops of crystal tears, wetting the longevity rat's orange eyelids. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan immediately understood that this little fellow was worried that it would not be able to sense this pure spirit qi if it left his side. This was the only explanation that made sense. Why did the longevity rat feel even more wronged after sensing the pure spirit qi? Lin Yuan said as he rubbed the longevity rat's soft and tight fur. You only have 1 year of lifespan. If you don't form a contract with someone, you will quickly absorb spiritual ingredients that contain vitality. After 1 year, you won't have the chance to feel the pure spirit qi even if you want to. After a year, even if you want to experience pure spiritual energy, you won't have the chance. When you get to your new master, you can eat any spirit materials that can increase your life force. You'll be able to continue living and experience the pure spiritual qi whenever you want. Do you still remember being chased by other fays in the forest? Form a contract with your new master. Your new master will protect you. This kind of exhausting life will never happen to you again. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's guarantee, the longevity rat slowly calmed down. Then the longevity rat's 2 small claws grabbed Lin Yuan's fingers and shook them gently. She looked as if she was reluctant to leave him even if it was like this. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan said with a gentle smile, "Your new master is my master. Usually, I will go to my master's place. We will have many opportunities to meet. After you go there, you can even meet a stingy rabbit who loves to eat carrots. That stingy rabbit is just like you, living a carefree life all day long. The 2 of you should be able to get along very well." As Lin Yuan spoke, Zishi was lying on the table listlessly in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace. The carrots were casually planted in the jade basin beside her. Zishi's eyes flickered with purple, and large teardrops rolled down her cheeks. However, whenever a teardrop rolled onto the table, Zishi seemed to be afraid of being seen by others. She hurriedly used her white forelegs to wipe away the teardrops. The carrots planted in the basin beside her could no longer arouse Zishi's interest. If Zishi could know what Lin Yuan said to the longevity rat, even if Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, Zishi would definitely pick up the carrots and let Lin Yuan know the joy of hiding them. You're the one who's comfortable. I'm cultivating by eating carrots, okay? It's scary to be ignorant. Also, I'm not stingy at all. Many experts in the world want to smell my carrots, but I refuse. You didn't just nibble on the skin of my carrots, you even ate half of them. My carrots have yet to recover. Angry. After comforting the longevity rat, Lin Yuan was ready to return to his room to take a bath. The conditions in the Divine Wood Federation were limited, and Lin Yuan had no chance to take a bath. Lin Yuan's body genes had been optimized. Lin Yuan's skin, which had been optimized, had the ability to resist dust. However, daily bathing had long become Lin Yuan's habit. If he didn't bathe for a day, Lin Yuan would feel uncomfortable all over his body. Listening to the sound of running water while bathing, Lin Yuan could also calm down and consider his recent gains and losses. During this trip to the Divine Wood Federation, he had easily opened up the situation of the entire Agawan continent. He was now a major shareholder and honorary president of the Sincerity Chamber of Commerce. It was tantamount to opening up the trade route of the Agawan continent, and it also gave him a local force belonging to the Deep Burn Federation. Tali's Iron Hoof tribe gave him an official identity to develop in the Iron Hammer Federation. Luoya, who was born in a 2-star family, was considered a noble in the Divine Wood Federation. Through Luoya, he could quickly develop and infiltrate the Divine Wood Federation. Everything was going smoothly on the Agawan continent. When Su Iran, who was currently in the Divine Wood Federation, came to his side, as the former Gloom envoy, she could very well assist him in development. As for the Swamp World, Lin Yuan didn't even dare to think about recruiting an expert of Bai Yan's level. Bai Yan occupied the Dark Scorpion Apostle's territory, and the Dark Scorpion Apostle's territory blocked his territory. It was tantamount to fundamentally isolating the dangerous factors in his territory. This way, Shi Tung, Wendy, and Bai Xian could quickly develop their strength and strengthen their faith through a steady stream of marsh crocodiles. Everything was so prosperous. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face. It seemed that when he returned to the Divine Wood Federation, he should take the initiative to do something. After bathing, Lin Yuan chose a set of sky blue and moon yellow spirit chi clothes that Wen Yu had designed not long ago. Lin Yuan's spirit chi clothes had always been white, black, and blue. Lin Yuan had almost never worn this kind of sky blue and moon yellow spirit chi clothes. The patterns on this sky blue and moon yellow spirit chi clothes were all made of jadeite craftsmanship. The belly hair of the diamond clear light aureole was collaged on the surface of the metal-based spirit chi clothes. Then the ice silkworm silk thread was threaded through the jadeite craftsmanship and embroidered into the style of the rising sun cloud pattern. The gold-threaded jade beads covered the belly hair of the clear light aureole, and the bright color made the entire spirit chi clothes look unusually soft at first glance. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1237. The moon yellow color of the spirit chi clothes and the large area of sky blue on the outside added a bright and smooth aura to the style of the whole spirit chi clothes. Coupled with Lin Yuan's natural temperament, Lin Yuan's outstanding looks were suddenly pulled up by a lot. Lin Yuan looked at himself in the mirror and didn't feel any difference from the past. As soon as Lin Yuan left the room, he saw Lu Jie rushing back from the land of spirit suppression. When Lu Jie saw Lin Yuan's eyes suddenly lit up, he could not help but sigh in his heart. Compared to black and dark blue, Lin Yuan is undoubtedly more suitable to wear light-colored clothes. People without good looks would only look uglier in light-colored clothes. If a person with good looks but no temperament wore light-colored clothes, it would be boring at first glance. Only someone like Lin Yuan, who had excellent looks and temperament, would be able to hold on perfectly when wearing light-colored spirit chi clothing. At the same time, it gave off a very clean feeling. Upon seeing that Lu Jie had returned to the mansion and was ready to cook, Lin Yuan hurriedly said, "Brother Lu, I was just about to call you. I'm going to Master's place to eat tonight. You don't have to bring me dinner tonight. Wen Yu has just eaten the fishball noodles and grilled chicken wings you made this morning. She'll probably sleep until tomorrow morning." Lu Jie nodded. "That's great. The mother of Bloodbath didn't have enough to eat because it wanted to save the chicken wings for Wen Yu this morning. If it's just me and the mother of Bloodbath eating in the mansion tonight, I can roast some chicken wings and bird fays for the mother of Bloodbath. Let the mother of Bloodbath have a good meal." After speaking to Lu Jie, Lin Yuan immediately used the ethereal jellyfish's no teleportation. After a few shuttles, he arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's entrance with ease. When he arrived at the entrance of the Radiant Moon Palace, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. In the past, the 2 silver stamen gold luster caches in front of the Radiant Moon Palace would always bloom and sway their branches. Under the dusk, the silver stamen blossomed with a silver radiance that could even overshadow the sunset. But now, the flower buds of these silver stamen gold luster cassia were all tightly closed, and the cassia branches drooped weakly. Lin Yuan made a judgment based on the knowledge he had grasped. This was a kind of budding state, and it was definitely the performance of a plant fey when it was in extreme sorrow. But why would the 2 silver stamen gold luster cassia be sad? Could something have happened to the Radiant Moon Palace? With this thought in mind, he hurriedly walked through the Radiant Moon Palace's door and arrived at the front hall. As a result, Lin Yuan realized that the 4 tea attendants were still standing in the front hall as usual. It looked as if nothing had happened at all. The eldest of the 4 tea attendants, Kai Cha, quickly came over and greeted him politely. "Your Highness, today's dinner was personally cooked by the Moon Empress using the spiritual ingredients personally selected by her. At this time, the Black Moon Envoy should be in the kitchen helping the Moon Empress watch over the fire. The Moon Empress should be waiting for young Lord in the inner hall." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan greeted the 4 tea attendants one by one and walked toward the inner palace. The 4 tea attendants' reactions allowed Lin Yuan to relax. It seemed like he had been overthinking. It was just that the 2 silver stamen gold luster caches didn't have any problems. When he saw the Moon Empress later, he felt that he should mention the situation of the 2 silver stamen gold luster caches to her. Before Lin Yuan could reach the inner palace, he saw Mystic Moon, who looked troubled. Lin Yuan asked curiously upon seeing Mystic Moon, "Uncle Xian, Kai Cha said that you are in the kitchen. Are you standing here to wait for me? When Mystic Moon saw Lin Yuan, she immediately stepped forward and said to him, Your Highness, that drop of geocentric immortal milk tonight you. Before Mystic Moon could finish his sentence, the Moon Empress' voice echoed from the inner palace. Little Yuan, quickly come to the rear hall, and take a look at the spirit siphon goldfish that Master has just bred. The Moon Empress was using Spirit Chi voice transmission, and even if her voice was far away, it could still be clearly transmitted to other people's ears. This ability was exclusive to S-class and above powerhouses. Lin Yuan was only a C-rank Spirit Chi professional, and didn't possess such abilities yet. Thus, Lin Yuan couldn't immediately respond to the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress' voice interrupted Xian Yu's words. As a result, Lin Yuan only heard Mystic Moon mention the geocentric jade milk. Lin Yuan knew that the geocentric jade milk was a rare fei. Back then, when his master, the Moon Empress, was talking about top-notch spiritual ingredients, she had specially mentioned the geocentric jade milk. In the world, there was a type of most precious spiritual ingredient, and it was known as a rare item. All sorts of rare items were compiled into a rare item list, and there were a total of 100 types of rare items on the list. The geocentric jade milk happened to be ranked 17th among the 100 types of rare items. In fact, all the rare items on the rare item list had special functions. They had effects that other rare items couldn't replace. Therefore, the rare item list couldn't determine the true value of the rare item. In Lin Yuan's hands, the life-form Silent Flame, which he had always treated as a treasure, wasn't qualified to be listed on the rare item list. However, what did a rare item like the geocentric jade milk have to do with him? When Lin Yuan saw Mystic Moon's troubled expression, he frowned slightly. Uncle Mystic, I think you have something on your mind. Is there something that you need me to do? When Mystic Moon heard the Moon Empress' sudden interruption, he knew that the Moon Empress was reminding him. Otherwise, what was there to see about the few spirit siphon goldfish in the lotus pond? Those butterfly tail spirit siphon goldfish might have reached suzerain and awakened their hidden bloodline. The fish's wings and tails were like butterfly wings, and they were like butterflies fluttering in the water. However, such things weren't worth the Moon Empress dragging Lin Yuan to admire. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Mystic Moon's knitted brows didn't relax. He just shook his head with a bitter smile. Young lord, the Moon Empress is waiting for you to admire the fish. Don't let her wait for too long. When Lin Yuan and Mystic Moon arrived at the inner palace, Lin Yuan found his master, the Moon Empress, sitting at the table. She was smiling gently at him, just like how she usually did when she saw him. Just as Lin Yuan was about to walk to the Moon Empress' side, he suddenly realized that the Moon Empress' carrot-loving, miserly rabbit had a listless look. Lin Yuan immediately thought of the longevity rat. Originally, Lin Yuan was going to give the longevity rat to the Moon Empress before he left. Since his master's little rabbit was so listless, why not give the longevity rat to the Moon Empress now? It would also allow the longevity rat to play with the miserly rabbit. Therefore, after Lin Yuan arrived at the Moon Empress' side, he took out the bronze fey storage box that contained the longevity rat. Master, can you see if you can form a contract with this fey? I think this fey is quite suitable for Master. When the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan's words, she was slightly startled. She had been thinking of ways to prepare feys for Lin Yuan, but she was afraid that Lin Yuan wouldn't accept them. Now Lin Yuan was taking the initiative to give her a fey. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1238. Looking at the diamond fey storage box that Lin Yuan handed to her, the Moon Empress, who knew her fate, could not help but feel a little dazed. As a current expert, apart from his first fey when he was young, it was that old fellow who found him. The other feys were nurtured by the Moon Empress herself through fortuitous encounters and contracts. After that old fellow, the Moon Empress didn't remember anyone else taking the initiative to look for a fey for her. It was time for him to enter the contract. However, it seemed that when that old fellow had given him his first fey, he had been the same as Lin Yuan now. He handed over a bronze fey storage box. At that time, when he had just become a Spirit Chi professional, he was especially interested and curious about all feys. Now that he only had 3 years of lifespan left, how could he contract a fae? If he were to contract another fae, wouldn't his new contracted little fellow be like him, and only be able to live for 3 years? When Mystic Moon heard Lin Yuan's words, even though she had a lot on her mind, she didn't say anything. He was also stunned by Lin Yuan's words. In this world, apart from Lin Yuan, anyone who said such words to the Moon Empress would be disrespectful to her. Even if other eminences were to recommend fays to the Moon Empress and let her contract them, it would be considered overstepping their authority. However, Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress' only disciple, and if he were to say this, it would be the same as showing filial respect to his master. Upon seeing the smile on the Moon Empress' face, Mystic Moon instantly returned to his senses. As a Moon envoy who had accompanied the Moon Empress for over 50 years, Mystic Moon was very clear about how strong the Moon Empress' spiritual energy was. Even if the Moon Empress contracted many fays, it was still more than enough for her to contract one more fae. When thinking about the Moon Empress fae lineup, Mystic Moon truly could not think of what kind of fae the Moon Empress would need to contract. Lin Yuan had just said that the fae in the fae storage box was suitable for the Moon Empress. If the Moon Empress had more than 3 years of lifespan left, given how much she doted on Lin Yuan, she would form a contract with the fae that Lin Yuan had given her. Then he quickly nurtured them. However, the Moon Empress, who only had 3 years of lifespan left, probably did not know what to do with her other fays. Therefore, it was impossible for the Moon Empress to contract the fae that Lin Yuan had given her. The young lord still didn't know that the Moon Empress only had 3 years of lifespan left. But what about 3 years later? Looking at the Moon Empress and Lin Yuan, Mystic Moon's eyes, which had never been red since she was born, couldn't help but turn red and sour. It was as if something was about to come out of his eyes. The Moon Empress was about to refuse when she saw the expectant expression on Lin Yuan's face. In the end, the Moon Empress didn't reject him. When the Moon Empress took the bronze fae storage box from Lin Yuan, she felt a warmth in her heart that she had only felt after accepting Lin Yuan as a disciple. After receiving the bronze fae storage box, the Moon Empress wanted to put it away. At that moment, the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan speak again. "Master, I see that Zishi is a little listless. The little fellow in the bronze fae storage box is about the same size as Zishi. It should be able to play with her." As he spoke, Lin Yuan prepared to rub Zishi, who was in the Moon Empress' arms. Previously, when Lin Yuan had arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace, he had secretly touched Zishi. Zishi was in a good mood, because Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress' disciple, and was considered one of them. Thus, Zishi did not express any clear objection to Lin Yuan's action of masturbating. He could just turn a blind eye to it. However, ever since Lin Yuan ate half of Zishi's carrot, if Lin Yuan wanted to touch Zishi again, Zishi would jump away from Lin Yuan's 10-meter radius. Occasionally, its ears would swing Lin Yuan's palm away. This made Lin Yuan a little confused. He didn't understand what was wrong with this stingy rabbit. Why did it suddenly become cold to him? Now that Lin Yuan saw Zishi's listless appearance, he felt that Zishi would not reject him touching her. In the end, when Lin Yuan stretched out his hand, Zishi jumped behind the Moon Empress. Then she tilted her head and glared at Lin Yuan. "What playmate? Playmate? I don't need a playmate. I feel bad because Siyue only has 3 years of lifespan left. Don't talk about finding a playmate for me. Even if you spit out the carrot you ate and return it to me, I will definitely not be happy." After hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Moon Empress didn't check what was in the bronze fae storage box. Instead, she used her spiritual energy to summon the longevity rat out of the bronze fae storage box. However, it was just a casual summon from the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress, Mystic Moon, and Zishi all had stunned expressions on their faces. As the longevity rat had been living in the Divine Wood Federation's forest all year round, it was very afraid of strangers. The longevity rat's hair stood on end when it suddenly appeared in an unfamiliar environment. Seeing Lin Yuan at the side, the longevity rat's eyes lit up. It scuttled to Lin Yuan's body and nestled its head in Lin Yuan's neck. However, Lin Yuan didn't care about the longevity rat that was shivering on his neck. Lin Yuan felt that something was wrong. If it was just the 2 silver stamen gold luster caches at the entrance of the Radiant Moon Palace, Lin Yuan wouldn't think so much. However, Mystic Moon's hesitation and Zixie's emotions proved that something big had happened in the Radiant Moon Palace. The emotions produced by both of them could only revolve around one person, and that was his master, the Moon Empress. Could it be that something had happened to his master? While Lin Yuan was thinking, the Moon Empress was the first to recover from her daze. She couldn't remember how many years it had been since she had been stunned. As a Class 5 creation master, the Moon Empress naturally saw through the longevity rat's ability, life end, at first glance. In the blink of an eye, this subconscious glance was too profound. From this glance, the Moon Empress saw the lingering tinder of rebirth in his helpless resignation. Now the Moon Empress could finally stop accepting her fate. At that moment, it was as though the Moon Empress had returned to her past self from 10 years ago. At that moment, the Moon Empress' heart was throbbing with all sorts of emotions. These emotions filled the Moon Empress' heart, causing her body to tremble slightly. His emotions were like an overturned bottle of 5 flavors, and for a moment, it was hard to describe. Finally, the Moon Empress suppressed all her emotions at the bottom of her heart, leaving only a gentle smile for Lin Yuan. Just like when she knew that her fate was fixed, the Moon Empress tried her best to remain calm when she saw that her fate had changed. Ever since the Moon Empress had taken Lin Yuan in as her disciple, she had always treated him as a withered glory that could extend her life. She loved him more than her own eyeballs. The Moon Empress didn't say anything about her remaining 3 years of life. However, there was an unknown amount of unwillingness in her heart. Compared to the unwillingness to accept her death, the Moon Empress was even more unresigned that she couldn't see Lin Yuan rise to the top and look down on all the other mountains. Now, all the unwillingness had turned into hope. Her fate had changed because of Lin Yuan. Perhaps everything that happened in the unseen world was due to fate and karma in the midst of the wind and dew. Chapter 1239. If it was 10 years ago, someone would have told the Moon Empress that her life providence would change because of her disciple. The Moon Empress would definitely let him experience what it meant to be a chain of moonlight and a hook of silver chains. That was because it was complete nonsense to the Moon Empress back then. 10 years ago, the Moon Empress had never thought that she would accept a disciple one day. The Moon Empress had decided to accept him as a disciple last year. In the end, the Moon Empress set the selection conditions, and the Redbud City Lord, Ling Xiao, immediately selected a suitable candidate. In fact, let alone 10 years ago, even before Lin Yuan's arrival, the Black Dragon clan had been in the Black Dragon clan for a long time. Someone told the Moon Empress that her disciple could change her fate, but the Moon Empress didn't believe it. This was not the first time Lin Yuan had been surprised by the Moon Empress. For example, the Golden Lotus Brocade plant's high density and pure spirit chi were things that even a Class 5 creation master like the Moon Empress would have a hard time figuring out. When the Moon Empress obtained the Golden Lotus Brocade, she determined that the Golden Lotus Brocade and the Flower Brocade pearls should be of the same origin. After receiving the high concentration of pure spirit chi from Lin Yuan, the Moon Empress had used it to induce the Flower Brocade pearl. In the end, the Flower Brocade pearl's reaction was mediocre and showed no signs of transforming into a Golden Lotus. The Moon Empress knew that the appearance of the Golden Lotus Brocade truss had nothing to do with the high concentration of pure spirit chi. The Flower Brocade pearl must have undergone some special mutation. The appearance of the high concentration of pure spirit chi and the Golden Lotus Brocade truss proved that certain creation masters were superior to other creation masters. His disciple, Lin Yuan, had already silently walked in front of him. The Moon Empress didn't investigate how Lin Yuan had done it. She only felt proud and happy for him. However, even if Lin Yuan had such achievements as a creation master, the Moon Empress did not think that he could change his life providence. However, the longevity rat that Lin Yuan took out had truly shocked the Moon Empress. This kind of shock was on a completely different level compared to the Golden Lotus Brocade plant and the high density of spirit chi. There were all sorts of life evolutions and mutations, and even some Class 4 creation masters had mutated into extremely valuable phase. In addition, If the Moon Empress creation master standard improved, the spirit chi's purity would also increase. It could be said that the golden lotus brocade plant and the high concentration of spirit chi were both within the realm of human strength. However, the lifespan rat was a spirit creature that could directly extend one's lifespan. According to the Moon Empress knowledge, such a spirit item that could increase one's lifespan shouldn't exist in this world. A contract with a small longevity mouse would basically fulfill the lifelong wish of many powerhouses. Longevity. With the help of the cicadas, the Moon Empress had already seen through some of the secrets of the path to heaven. 5 years later, the Moon Empress would have the opportunity to charge for the path of ascension. After contracting the lifespan rat, the Moon Empress was not limited to 3 years of lifespan. As the lifespan rat devoured spirit materials rich in vitality, its lifespan would be extended indefinitely. At that time, when he broke through to the next realm, he wouldn't have to worry about his lifespan anymore. After looking at the longevity rat on Lin Yuan's neck for a moment, the Moon Empress shifted her gaze to Lin Yuan. At that moment, all of the Moon Empress emotions melted into her smile at Lin Yuan. At this moment, the Moon Empress felt very blissful. The longevity rat's appearance could allow it to forever block in front of Lin Yuan and protect him on his journey on the wind. The second person to recover from the shock was Xianyu. After recovering from the shock, Xianyu's mouth twitched and quickly said to the Moon Empress and Lin Yuan, "Moon Empress, young lord, I will go to the kitchen to take a look." After speaking, without waiting for the Moon Empress to nod, Xianyu turned and walked out of the inner palace. Lin Yuan was still pondering about the problem, but Xianyu's voice interrupted his thoughts. From the start of Xianyu's words, Lin Yuan had keenly captured the trembling in Xianyu's voice. The last few words even had a bit of a whimper. Could Xianyu be crying? However, Lin Yuan immediately shook his head. What Lin Yuan didn't know was that Xianyu, who had just walked out of the inner palace's door, already had hot silver tears in her eyes. Xianyu didn't blink, and the silver tears didn't fall from her eyes. The moment the silver tears flowed out, they were evaporated by Xianyu's spiritual power. When Xianyu heard about the Moon Empress situation from the cicadas, she felt as though the sky had collapsed. In the 50 years of getting along, Xianyu never thought that she would have to part with the Moon Empress in life and death. Back in the kitchen, Xianyu's eyes were a little warm. When she saw the Moon Empress looking at Lin Yuan in the inner palace, Xianyu's eyes started to turn red. However, Xianyu endured it. When she saw the longevity rat, she found out that the Moon Empress was only left with 3 years of lifespan, and the predicament was resolved. Xianyu couldn't help but cry tears of joy. As the tears were constantly evaporating, Xianyu didn't know how many times she had to adjust her emotions. Soon enough, the surging emotions caused Xianyu's clear and bright face to look a little exaggerated. Xianyu's mouth was almost at her ears, revealing a mouthful of teeth. Silver patterns faintly appeared on her teeth, and they looked like they were about to turn into dragon teeth. At that moment, Xianyu's emotions were so overwhelming that she couldn't control herself. Her tearful expression made Xianyu, who had an outstanding appearance, look a little ugly. However, the grief of knowing that the Moon Empress only had 3 years of lifespan couldn't be erased in a short period of time. Therefore, Xianyu's expression lasted until she walked to the kitchen before she recovered. After her expression recovered, Xianyu was already able to control the joy in her heart. She looked at the stew of island whale brain oil, jade peck blood swallow's nest, and other ingredients in the kitchen. Xianyu carefully and seriously cooked them. Previously, when Xianyu was handling these ingredients, her heart was in pain, and she resisted cooking from the bottom of her heart. Xianyu knew that the cooking of these ingredients was to allow Lin Yuan to better absorb the geocentric jade milk. But now, Xianyu was very happy and even grateful while cooking. Looking at the dishes being cooked, Xianyu chuckled and opened up her chest. Immediately after, Xianyu's body was like colored glass, and a drop of silver blood with a hint of gold condensed on her chest. Xianyu placed this drop of blood into the stew of island whale brain oil. Island whale brain oil was extremely nourishing and protective towards the soul. Island whale brain oil was a dish that Lin Yuan had to eat if he wanted to absorb the geocentric jade milk. The Moon Empress didn't like to eat fish, and the island whale brain oil had the smell of aquatic phase. Therefore, when the Moon Empress was eating, she wouldn't touch the island whale brain oil. If the Moon Empress found out that Lin Yuan had added the condensed essence blood from the dragon heart into the dishes, she would definitely blame Lin Yuan. The higher the bloodline of a dragon species Fei, the harder it was to condense essence blood. A gold dragon species, Fei could easily condense 200 to 300 drops of essence blood. However, when a dragon species Fei evolved into a myth breed, it was already not bad to condense a dozen drops of essence blood. At Xianyu's level, she could only condense 3 drops of essence blood at most. Chapter 1240. The loss of dragon species Fei's essence blood was extremely damaging to the body. But at the same time, the essence blood of dragon species Fei's was the best enhancer for spiritual ingredients. It could greatly enhance the island whale brain oil's protection effect on the soul. Mystic Moon was a spirit soul dual-type dragon species Fei, so its essence blood had the effect of protecting the spirit and soul. Dragon species Feis had always cherished their essence blood, just like how a mother cherished her child. Mystic Moon's behavior was Mystic Moon using its own method to thank Lin Yuan. Previously, Mystic Moon had always felt that the Radiant Moon Palace was shielding Lin Yuan from the wind and rain. Now, it was better to say that Lin Yuan had reconstructed the Radiant Moon Palace. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who was in the Radiant Moon Palace, was dumbfounded as he looked at Zixi, who had just ignored him. Lin Yuan really couldn't figure out what this stingy rabbit was up to. She didn't even let him touch her earlier, but now, she was using her 2 long ears to hold his palm. She took the initiative to put his palm on her body. What was going on? Was she inviting him to masturbate her? Thus, Lin Yuan tentatively touched Zixi's body. Lin Yuan was really afraid that Zixi was fishing, so he reached out to touch her. The ears slapped the back of his hand. When Lin Yuan was done, he realized that Zixi had kicked her legs and was lying flat on the table. She took the initiative to reveal the soft belly hair. The Moon Empress couldn't stand it anymore and hugged Zixi. Zixi could transform into a human form. Compared to a human form, Zixi felt more comfortable in her beast form, and could eat carrots more conveniently. Thus, Zixi would never transform into a human form when not in combat. However, it was undeniable that Zixi was a female rabbit. The Moon Empress couldn't bear to see Zixi lying flat. Lin Yuan originally had something to ask the Moon Empress, but just as he was about to ask, Lin Yuan realized that the Moon Empress' temperament had changed. The Moon Empress' eyes were clearly a little more than when he had just entered. Looking at his master's temperament, there was now 30% arrogance and 70% hope. Lin Yuan felt that he didn't need to ask. Thus, Lin Yuan hugged the longevity rat on his neck and changed the topic. Master, this longevity rat has a small drawback. If Master wants to form a contract, you must not expose the longevity rat to people who don't trust it. Upon hearing his words, the Moon Empress flipped her hand. A fruit-rich and vital aura appeared in the Moon Empress' hand. During this time, Lin Yuan had only fed the longevity rat soldiers rations. The army grain radish leaf contained the energy to sustain life, but its vitality was pitifully little. Because of this, the lifespan of the longevity rats was not as fast as that of the longevity rats. The lifespan of a Fei like the longevity rat was only 1 year. According to the Fei's instincts, the longevity rat would frantically search for spiritual ingredients rich in vitality energy in order to survive. To the longevity mouse, the fruit that the Moon Empress had taken out was the most life-force treasure that the longevity mouse had ever seen. However, due to the longevity rat's cautious nature, it didn't immediately charge forward. The longevity rat squeaked on Lin Yuan's palm while moving in small steps. It seemed to be saying, "I really want to eat that fruit. Can you please bring it over to me?" Sob, sob, sob. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan smiled and said to the longevity rat, "When you become Master's spirit creature, you'll have as many of these spirit materials as you want." After saying that, Lin Yuan touched the longevity rat's orange fur, and continued speaking. "Little guy, hurry up and go over." The lifespan rat stared at the young man who saved it in the forest, and helped it evolve. The longevity rat gently raised its small paw and shook it at Lin Yuan. It then squeaked a few times at Lin Yuan, but no one knew what it was saying. Then, the longevity element rat scuttled into the Moon Empress palm. The Moon Empress immediately used her spiritual energy to contract the longevity rat. Then he handed the myth breed blue life jade pear in his hand to the lifespan rat. The longevity element rat immediately grabbed the blue life jade pear's fruit and ate it. After the lifespan mouse ate the blue life jade pear, its lifespan slowly increased. The blue life jade pear increased the longevity mouse's lifespan from 1 year to 2.5 years. In other words, a myth breed blue life jade pear could allow the longevity rat to live for over 500 days. This kind of consumption was undoubtedly huge for ordinary forces and experts. In fact, some factions might not even be able to earn a myth breed blue life jade pear in a year. However, such consumption was nothing to the Moon Empress with her resources. The increase in lifespan made the Moon Empress smile even more intensely. The Moon Empress flipped her hand again, and a basket filled with blue life jade pears was placed on the ground. When the longevity rat saw this, it wanted to dive into the basket full of blue life pears and eat them. The Moon Empress quickly grabbed the longevity rat out of the basket and said, "Little guy, you need to digest it before you can continue eating. Otherwise, if you eat another blue life jade pear, your stomach will burst. Otherwise, if you eat another blue life jade pear, your stomach will burst." The longevity rat shyly rubbed its small head against the Moon Empress' palm. After signing the pill contract with the Moon Empress, the longevity rat instinctively felt intimate with her. Looking at the longevity rat's bulging stomach, Lin Yuan smiled gently. When this little guy ate the soldier ration radish leaf stem, it was very gluttonous. It was unknown when it could change this gluttonous habit. Fortunately, as a rodent species Fei, this little guy's metabolism was very fast. It was not a problem to eat 3 to 4 myth breed blue life jade pears a day. After the longevity rat had its fill, it looked at Zixi in the Moon Empress' arms, and wanted to jump onto Zixi's body. If it was any other Fei that wanted to touch it, Zixi would probably slap it away with one ear. However, Zixi did not do so for the longevity rat. One reason was that Zixi was afraid that her ear would kill the longevity rat that could only maintain at normal grade 1 normal grade. Secondly, the longevity rat was equivalent to the Moon Empress lifespan battery. Just now, Zixi was very worried about the Moon Empress lifespan of only 3 years. Now it cherished the longevity rat very much. Zixi allowed the lifespan rat to jump around on her back, and even used her ears to protect it. It was afraid that the longevity rat would slip off its back and fall to the ground. When Zixi was around, the Moon Empress' other Feis, such as the sun-swallowing calamity fox, would not even dare to make a sound. When Zixi was around, the sun-swallowing calamity fox did not even dare to make a sound. Now Zixi was protecting the longevity rat as though it was protecting a baby. In fact, it was not only Zixi. The Moon Empress' other Feis that were not summoned also had an instinctive good impression of the longevity rat. The longevity rat, which was foolishly playing on Zixi's back, did not know that it had become the Moon Empress contracted Fei. In the Fei world, this identity was probably comparable to Lin Yuan's identity in the Radiance Federation. Chapter 1241. The Moon Empress looked down at the longevity rat playing with Zixi for a moment, before looking up at Lin Yuan. "Little Yuan, have you heard of our Radiance's unique desolation bloodline Fei?" Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan suddenly thought of the time when everyone had a meal together in Zhongzai's residence in Copper Crane Alley. Zhongzai and Gulang had mentioned a desolate bloodline Fei. When Zhongzai and Gulang mentioned the desolate bloodline Fei, Longtao, Zhongzai, and Sun Ningxiang looked at Gaofeng, Lujia, and themselves with envy. That was the first time Lin Yuan had heard of the term, desolate bloodline. From Zhongzai's words, Lin Yuan knew that Zhongzai's main Fei, the heaven-burning roar, possessed the desolate bloodline. Moreover, the heaven-burning Ho's desolate bloodline had yet to fully mature. Lin Yuan remembered that Zhongzai originally wanted to talk more about his burning sky ram. But then Zhongzai glanced at Gaofeng, Longtao, and Sun Ningxiang and did not continue. Zhongzai's actions let Lin Yuan know that Zhongzai did not want Longtao, Gaofeng, and Sun Ningxiang to understand more about the heaven-burning Ho, or the Desolation bloodline Fei. However, Gao Feng and Zongzi had no intention of hiding anything from him. But in the end, Zongzi didn't mention the desolate bloodline again. When Zongzi mentioned the desolate bloodline, Gu Lang spoke to Long Tao. If you work hard, you will also have a chance to obtain the bloodline of famine. From the information revealed by Zongzi and Gu Lang, Lin Yuan only had a smattering of knowledge regarding the desolate bloodline. Lin Yuan shook his head at the Moon Empress. Master, I don't know much about the famine bloodline. I only know that Zongzi's heaven-burning Ho has the famine bloodline. The Moon Empress replied. I originally planned to tell you about the Desolation bloodline before you participate in the Radiance Envoy selection at the age of 20. Today, I happened to obtain a drop of geocentric immortal milk. With this drop of geocentric jade milk, Little Yuan, you can form a contract with a desolate bloodline Fei now. Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan knew that Feis with the Desolation bloodline had an age requirement. Treasures like the geocentric immortal milk could cleanse the body of impurities and once again optimize the genes. Tempering one's body, soul, and mental strength would allow one's life to be reborn. It also meant that the spirit chi professional's body, mind, and soul had extremely high requirements for the spirit chi professional's body, mind, and soul. It was just like how the soul of a person under the age of 18 was not enough to form a sacred source life form. However, according to the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan still did not know what was going on with the Desolation bloodline Fei. However, in the previous duel with Zongzi and the civil and martial duels, he had deeply witnessed the heaven-burning roar's power. It could be said that the reincarnated flame beast and Zongzi's sacred source life form, the heaven's blazing flame, could display such power. It had an indispensable relationship with the heaven-burning Ho. If not for the burning sky Ho's amplification of the fire elemental energy, and the use of the exclusive skill, Fire Fantasy Town, he wouldn't have been able to summon the burning sky Ho. Zongzi's overall strength would be weakened by at least 20%. At the same time as a Diamond X/Fantasy V Fei, the sky-burning centipede had 8 high-grade exceptional flames in its body, which truly shocked Lin Yuan. After the fusion of 8 high-grade mysterious flames, its might could already reach the standard of a peak-grade mysterious flame. The power of a top-notch heavenly flame was far beyond the control of ordinary fantasy breed Feis. At that time, Lin Yuan had been secretly shocked by the sky-burning centipede's talent and bloodline. In terms of the Fei's individual strength and function, Zongzi's sky-burning centipede definitely surpassed any of Lin Yuan's existing Feis. Lin Yuan's Feis had always evolved in the most optimal way. Now Lin Yuan finally understood that it was because Zongzi's sky-burning centipede had the Desolation bloodline. Just as Lin Yuan was about to ask the Moon Empress how to obtain the Desolation bloodline Fei, the Moon Empress spoke first. Little Yuan, in another month, the Azure Federation's envoys will arrive at our Radiance Federation to observe the Radiance 100 sequence selection. At that time, the 4th Azure Envoy will be coming along. The 4th Azure Envoy is from the Azure Cloud Leopard family, one of the 12 Azure families. The Azure Cloud Leopard bloodline is the Azure Federation's unique Azure bloodline. Our Radiance Federation's corresponding Desolation bloodline is our Radiance Federation's unique Desolation bloodline. Zongzi's sky-burning centipede is the same as Master Zishi. They both have the Desolation bloodline. In the Radiance Federation, there is only one way for the older generation to obtain Feis with the Desolation bloodline. That is to become the Radiance Federation's Majesty. As for the younger generation, it is easier to obtain Feis with the Desolation bloodline than the older generation. There are a total of 3 ways. The first is to become the Majesty's disciple before the age of 30. The second is to become a Radiance Envoy. The third is to become a member of the Radiant Light Knights. The Moon Empress words made Lin Yuan dumbfounded. Previously, Lin Yuan only had a concept of Feis with the Desolation bloodline. Now Lin Yuan deeply understood the value of Feis with the Desolation bloodline. Based on Lin's memories, Lin Yuan knew what the 12 Azure families meant to the Azure Federation. The Azure family's weight in the Azure Federation was completely different from the top faction's status in the Radiance Federation. It was the three top factions: Rhine life form, whale ocean trade, and Brahma insect cage added together. They could not compare to any of the Azure family's status in the Azure Federation. There was no majesty in the Azure Federation's Azure Imperial Court. The family head of each of the 12 Azure families was actually equivalent to the Radiance Federation's majesty. In the Azure Parliament organized by the Azure Imperial Court, they had a seat with a lot of authority. All of this was because the members of the Azure family possessed the Azure Beast pattern and could perfectly contract phase with the Azure bloodline. This showed how powerful the Azure bloodline phase were. Similarly, phase with the Desolation bloodline could be compared to phase with the Azure bloodline. This meant that phase with the Desolation bloodline would definitely be comparable to phase with the Azure bloodline in terms of combat power. Furthermore, according to the conditions for obtaining phase with the Desolation bloodline, there might be more types of phase with the Desolation bloodline than phase with the Azure bloodline. However, there were definitely fewer phase with the Azure bloodline than with the Azure bloodline. This was because every Spirit Chi professional in the Azure family who awakened the Azure Beast pattern would immediately obtain an Azure bloodline Fae on the same day they awakened the Azure Beast pattern. According to the Moon Empress, it seemed that he would be able to obtain a Fae with the Desolation bloodline after consuming the geocentric jade milk. Lin Yuan immediately looked forward to it. However, while he was looking forward to it, Lin Yuan suddenly worried about his spiritual energy. Fays with the Desolation bloodline were so powerful, and simply weren't suitable for Morbius Spirit Lock. If he were to use Spirit Lock on Fays with the Desolation bloodline, it would truly be a waste of resources. End of this chapter. Chapter 1242. However, if contracting a Fae with the Desolate bloodline required a massive amount of spiritual energy, most of his spiritual energy had been consumed during the contract with Morbius. The rest could only form a contract with a normal Fae. If he wanted to form a contract with a Desolate bloodline Fae, the spiritual energy requirement would be higher than ordinary Faes. In that case, it was very likely that he would not be able to form a contract. Lin Yuan asked the Moon Empress, "Master, are there any conditions for contracting a Desolate bloodline Fae? I don't have much mental power left." The Moon Empress knew of Black's identity and naturally knew that Lin Yuan had contracted many Faes. The Moon Empress was not surprised that Lin Yuan did not have much spiritual energy left. In the Moon Empress' opinion, for Lin Yuan to be able to contract so many Faes at this age, he had already left his peers far behind. The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan's somewhat worried expression and explained very seriously, "A person can only form a contract with a Desolate bloodline Fae in their lifetime. Unlike sacred source life forms, some people with stronger souls can form 2 contracts. A Fae with the Desolate bloodline will be completely bound to a person after the contract. When a Fae with the Desolate bloodline grows, a certain amount of bloodline power will be fed back to the contractor. It allows the contractor to possess a certain amount of the Desolate bloodline, thereby greatly increasing the contractor's physical strength. Little Yuan, you don't have to worry. Forming a contract with a Desolate bloodline Fae will consume some of your spiritual energy, but it doesn't consume much of my mental strength. The key is still my physique and soul strength. Dinner might be painful for you, but you have to eat as much as you can. This will allow you to better absorb the energy within the geocentric immortal milk when you take it, and also make you feel more relaxed." As the Moon Empress and Lin Yuan were conversing, Mystic Moon had already brought the spirit attendants to the inner palace to serve the dishes. At this moment, Jinqi was holding the jade-pecking blood swallow's bird's nest. The fragrance of the blood-pecking jade swallow's nest wafted into Jinqi's nose, making her blood boil. Jinqi didn't dare to imagine eating the jade-pecking blood swallow's nest if it had such an effect just by smelling it. To what extent would the blood qi in his body grow? Jinqi had previously thought of seducing Lin Yuan to raise her status in the Radiant Moon Palace. However, when Jinqi saw Lin Yuan pondering beside the Moon Empress, she understood that she could only look up to this youth who was younger than her. Thinking of this, Jinqi could not help but feel envious of Wen Yu again. At the same time, Jinqi felt that Wen Yu was extremely stupid. As the saying went, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys moonlight first. when you stayed by Lin Yuan's side all day long. However, she had never been able to obtain Lin Yuan. If Lin Yuan had chosen him back then, he might still be pregnant and being served by other spirit attendants. Of course, Jinqi only dared to think about these things in her heart. If she revealed it, Jinqi was afraid that she would be directly sent to the Pond of Sin by the mysterious moon envoy. Under the weeping willow tree, he endured the punishment while reflecting on his mistakes. Lin Yuan also saw the spirit attendants bringing in the dishes. While looking, Lin Yuan subconsciously used Morbius True Data. Lin Yuan's jaw dropped when he saw it. This is too exaggerated. Lin Yuan had always felt that his spirit lock spatial zone would produce heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls every minute, and he was already very wealthy. But now he calculated all his wealth and could only barely afford one portion of island whale brain oil. While thinking about it, Lin Yuan suddenly realized that something was wrong. The island whale brain oil in the dishes was dark gold in color, and it was different from ordinary island whale brain oil. The island whale that produced this island whale brain oil should be at least 600 years old. Of course, this was just a conservative estimate. Otherwise, the island whale brain oil would not be of such quality. At the thought of this, Lin Yuan swallowed his saliva. It seemed like his wealth could not even afford this portion of island whale brain oil. Lin Yuan suddenly had a thought that he was very poor. In fact, there were plenty of spiritual ingredients in the dishes that Lin Yuan could not find out with true data. This meant that some of the spiritual ingredients came from undying phase. Lin Yuan, who was never frugal when it came to food, sighed in his heart more than once. Too extravagant. But when it was time to eat, Lin Yuan realized that extravagance did not mean enjoyment. This meal was truly torturous for Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress scooped a bowl of jade-pecking blood swallow's nest for Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan drank it, he tasted a natural and sweet taste. The soft gelatinous texture slid from the tip of his tongue into his esophagus. This feeling was like kissing the softest lips. Of course, Lin Yuan had never felt such a feeling before. However, after the second mouthful, Lin Yuan was no longer in the mood to savor the taste and texture of the jade-pecking blood swallow's nest. Lin Yuan felt that his body had become a giant furnace. His blood was boiling and clamoring, making Lin Yuan feel that his blood flow was at least 3 times faster. As his blood flowed rapidly, Lin Yuan's heartbeat was like the beating of a war drum. At the same time, Lin Yuan's forehead rapidly seeped out a large amount of sweat. Upon seeing the situation, the Moon Empress said with some heartache, "Little Yuan, how about this? Little Yuan, how about this? After you finish eating this bowl of bird's nest, immediately swallow the entire portion of island whale brain oil. Then try your best to eat other dishes and eat as much as you can. The more you eat, the better it will be for you. You must bring out your willpower at this time." Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan took a deep breath and drank the jade-pecking blood swallow's nest as quickly as possible. Then, he hugged the golden-threaded jade basin that contained the island whale brain oil, and quickly finished it. Due to Lin Yuan eating too quickly, the food's decomposition speed in his stomach could not keep up with his eating speed. When Lin Yuan was almost done with the island whale brain oil, the jade-pecking blood swallow's nest's power was completely unleashed. The fast-flowing blood caused Lin Yuan's blood vessels to bulge out of the surface of his body. The rapid flow of blood gave Lin Yuan an indescribable sense of excitement in his heart. This also greatly sped up Lin Yuan's eating speed. When Lin Yuan finished drinking the island whale brain oil and picked up the other dishes, he felt as though his soul was suddenly stuffed into a sea. The surging feeling caused Lin Yuan's body to constantly tremble. At this moment, Lin Yuan felt that he really could not persevere anymore. At that moment, Lin Yuan recalled Morbius Calm Mind. Calm Mind was a passive skill. However, when activated actively, Calm Mind's effects would increase. Lin Yuan repeatedly used Calm Mind on himself and forcefully endured the discomfort as he swept through the other dishes on the table. While Lin Yuan was stuffing himself with food, the Moon Empress gaze landed on Mystic Moon when Lin Yuan picked up the island whale brain oil. Mystic Moon looked at the Moon Empress and shrunk his neck. "Moon Empress, I'm doing this for the young lord's own good." End of chapter. Chapter 1243. The Moon Empress sighed and replied, "When little Yuan finishes consuming the geocentric jade milk, I'll ask him if there's any more pure spiritual qi." The feeling of being suppressed by the cicadas and rendered immobile must be very uncomfortable. With the pure spirit qi, your bloodline should be able to improve further, Xianyue. Now that your bloodline has been upgraded, you will definitely be able to cross that hurdle. After speaking to Mystic Moon, the Moon Empress realized that Lin Yuan had eaten the last dish on the table. The Moon Empress was secretly shocked by Lin Yuan's willpower. Seeing that Lin Yuan was about to finish the last dish, the Moon Empress said to Mystic Moon, "Xianyu, now is the time. Take out the geocentric jade milk for little Yuan to consume." If not for the lifespan rat, Mystic Moon would have hesitated when he heard the Moon Empress command. But right now, Mystic Moon was extremely willing to let Lin Yuan consume the geocentric jade milk. After Lin Yuan swallowed the last mouthful, Mystic Moon's hand, which was holding the blazing yellow wooden box, trembled. A seemingly ordinary milky white liquid flew into Lin Yuan's mouth. The moment he took a sip of the milky white liquid, he felt that the restlessness in his body was completely suppressed. If it wasn't for the fact that this drop of milky white liquid was very sticky in his mouth, he wouldn't have swallowed it completely. Lin Yuan was probably already complaining. Fuck. The geocentric jade milk was actually so disgusting. There was a hint of saltiness in the fishy smell, and a hint of bitter apricot. Just as Lin Yuan swallowed the geocentric jade milk with great difficulty, and lamented that he finally didn't have to experience his blood boiling and his soul swelling, Lin Yuan finally experienced what true pain was. The first time he had used the diamond silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar to cleanse his body of impurities, he had experienced the agony of being dismembered. After consuming the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, his soul experienced the pain of being crushed and squeezed. At that time, Lin Yuan had thought that the pain in his body and soul was already the limit of pain in the world. Compared to the pain he was suffering now, the pain from consuming the diamond and suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was child's play. Lin Yuan felt that if he cut a hole in his body would immediately burst like a balloon. Fast-flowing blood would splatter out of the wound. At that moment, the blood in Lin Yuan's body drilled out of his blood vessels, due to the overbearing medicinal power rising from his stomach. The pain of the blood forcefully drilling into his body made him feel as though he had become a big mulberry. At the center of the mulberry was a nest of eggs that had just hatched. During the incubation process, the eggs were eating away at the mulberry from the inside out. Previously, when he had consumed the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, the physical pain could even slow down his soul. A sluggish soul would weaken his perception of pain. Right now, under the effects of the island whale brain oil and some unknown spirit materials, his soul had already entered a hyperactive state. This state greatly increased his perception of physical pain. Moreover, the tyrannical medicinal power of the geocentric jade milk not only affected the body, but also the soul. This medicinal power was beneficial to his soul. Lin Yuan's soul could rely on this potion to strengthen itself. However, the medicinal potency was simply too massive. While absorbing it, his soul was almost shattered by the impact of the medicinal potency. Moreover, Lin Yuan's two souls were also affected. This caused Lin Yuan to suffer double the pain on the soul level compared to others. Lin Yuan could not bear either of the two kinds of pain, but they were mixed together. It allowed Lin Yuan's physical and soul pain to reach an ingenious balance. Even if Lin Yuan wanted to faint, Elder 100 could not do it. At that moment, every second was magnified tens of thousands of times in Lin Yuan's eyes. The activity of Lin Yuan's soul allowed him to clearly feel every trace of change in his body. Lin Yuan tried to use Morbius' calm mind on himself again. However, the two kinds of pain made Lin Yuan unable to make any instructions to his body. Lin Yuan could only check the situation in his body, but the Moon Empress and Mystic Moon could clearly see the changes on the surface of his body. Lin Yuan was now completely covered in blood. Due to the medicinal power of the jade-pecking blood swallow's nest, blood was constantly being produced. The blood that was constantly gushing out formed a thick layer of scab on the surface of Lin Yuan's body, completely sealing him in the scab. It made Lin Yuan look like a cocoon waiting to metamorphose. Upon seeing Lin Yuan's appearance, the Moon Empress clenched her fists tightly with a distressed expression on her face. It was the same for Mystic Moon. However, when she saw the Moon Empress expression, Mystic Moon quickly consoled her. Moon Empress, even if His Highness does not consume those spiritual ingredients to assist in absorbing the geocentric jade milk, there will not be any problem for him to endure the geocentric jade milk's medicinal effect. Moreover, His Highness has already consumed all of those spiritual ingredients. Don't worry, His Highness will not have any problem. When the Moon Empress heard Mystic Moon's words, her brows knitted even tighter. How could the Moon Empress not know that consuming the geocentric jade milk would only bring benefits to Lin Yuan? However, knowing was one thing. As a master, when she saw her disciple suffering such pain, she would still feel terrible. Right now, Lin Yuan was going through a process of gene optimization and being reborn. This process was something that the Moon Empress could not help even if she wanted to. If she recklessly used some methods to reduce Lin Yuan's pain, it might cause Lin Yuan's metamorphosis to be interrupted. It would be the same as personally cutting off Lin Yuan's fortuitous opportunity. However, when the Moon Empress recalled that Lin Yuan had eaten the entire table of dishes, her brows relaxed. After calculating the time, the ingredients of the dishes should have been completely stimulated by the geocentric jade milk's medicinal effect, and had been digested and absorbed by Lin Yuan's body. At this moment, Lin Yuan was already numb from the intense pain in his soul and body. The numb Lin Yuan suddenly felt that his stomach was starting to rapidly spread the energy ingredients to all parts of his body. These energy ingredients might be increasing the pain that Lin Yuan was enduring, but at this moment, every energy ingredient was like a divine weapon descending from the heavens. They were protecting Lin Yuan's body and soul, which were on the verge of shattering due to the geocentric jade milk's energy. At the same time, these energy ingredients were also accelerating Lin Yuan's digestion and absorption of the geocentric jade milk. During the digestion and absorption process, these energies were also absorbed into Lin Yuan's body. Lin Yuan could only helplessly endure it. A few short minutes in the outside world made Lin Yuan's soul world feel as though a few centuries had passed. During this process, Lin Yuan broke down thousands of times. He sank into depravity thousands of times. He comforted himself thousands of times. He found hope thousands of times. Finally, Lin Yuan had slowly gotten used to this intense pain in his soul and body. Chapter 1244. At that moment, Lin Yuan would no longer break down. He would only feel happy about the changes in his body, to look forward to a better future. Amidst the torturous pain, Lin Yuan's mental state had unknowingly undergone a qualitative leap. As the saying goes, young people's worries should be taken to the clouds, who would think of the cold sitting and crying. However, Lin Yuan's ambition was already above the sky, and it was very difficult for anything to change it, unless Lin Yuan had to endure more pain than this. Suddenly, a wisp of spiritual qi brewed in Lin Yuan's heart. Previously, when he had used spirit qi to enhance genius and the longevity rat, they had shed their fur time and time again. The current Lin Yuan was not much different from genius and the longevity rat. However, Lin Yuan did not change his hair, but all the cells in his body. As Lin Yuan's cells were constantly being born and dying, his body was being reconstructed over and over again. He could no longer remember how many times his body had been reshaped. Marrow, bones, blood, muscles, nerves, nails, hair. Every part of Lin Yuan's body was being remolded, experiencing the creator's meticulous carving. After Lin Yuan's body reassembled for the last time and no longer changed, Lin Yuan's eyes widened. A wave of spiritual and pure aura that belonged to living beings seeped out of the cocoon formed by the blood scabs and floated in the radiant moon palace. The dozens of lotus fays in the radiant moon palace's lotus pond kept swaying their petals and spitting out multicolored mist. The butterfly tail spirit siphon goldfish whose bloodline had transformed also extended its butterfly wing-like fins and tail as it leaped out of the water. It was as if there was something outside the lotus pond that was attracting the butterfly tail spirit siphon goldfish. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who was inside the blood scab, had completely transformed. Just as he was about to use his hand to break the scab, he keenly realized that his clothes had become unrecognizable due to the transformation just now. Thus, he quickly took out a set of black spirit chi clothes and changed into them. After changing into the spirit chi clothes, Lin Yuan checked himself again. When he didn't find anything abnormal, he broke off the scab and walked out. Mystic Moon and Moon Empress had seen countless proud sons of heaven. But now that they saw Lin Yuan again, they couldn't help but be amazed. Although Lin Yuan's current appearance didn't look any different from before, it was different from before. However, her facial features had become even more refined than before. The changes in his facial features had improved Lin Yuan's original appearance by a huge margin. It had reached the standard of more than 90 points. When a person's appearance was above 90 points, it could be regarded as the pinnacle of attractiveness. If many top-notch beauties were to be compared, the results of each person's evaluation would be very different. After all, to each his or her own taste. However, Lin Yuan had never relied on his appearance but his temperament. Lin Yuan's aura had improved his looks from over 80 points to over 90 points, which was enough to show how outstanding his aura was. Now that Lin Yuan's temperament had brought along his 90-plus points of appearance, it gave Lin Yuan an indescribable sense of nobility. During these 8 months, Lin Yuan had constantly increased his knowledge and strength. Not only did the resources in his hands grow larger and larger, but he also established his own forces. These experiences, coupled with the affluence of food and clothing, and the change in his social status, gave Lin Yuan a kind of noble aura. However, Lin Yuan's current noble aura was different from this noble aura that relied on status, wealth, and experience. Lin Yuan's noble aura was not conspicuous, but it could not be ignored. It was just like how an apostle was a grade higher than a dimensional life form. At the same time, Lin Yuan's figure and bone form had also undergone certain changes during the metamorphosis. Previously, Lin Yuan had grown from 1.78 meters to 1.79 meters, and he had been looking forward to growing to 1.80 meters. Now Lin Yuan's dream had been realized. Lin Yuan's current height had reached 1.82 meters. Lin Yuan was very clear about his growth. The clothes that Wen Yu had designed for Lin Yuan perfectly matched his current figure and size. Lin Yuan's current height was 1.82 meters, and he had only grown over 2 centimeters taller. The black spirit chi clothes that Lin Yuan was wearing were obviously a little tight, and did not fit him as well. Due to a person's different lifestyle and eating habits, their bone form would change little by little over time. For example, if a person sat for a long time, their back would naturally arch. If a person lay down and slept, the back of their head would become flatter and flatter. If a person always used his teeth to bite hard objects, then this person would as his masseter muscle increased in size at the same time. The structure of the mandible will also become more robust. All of these might not seem obvious, but they could subtly change a person's appearance and temperament. After Lin Yuan's bone form had been reborn, it had been set at the most optimal position in his genetic model. Even if Lin Yuan's acquired habits were bad, his body could automatically restore his bone form after the metamorphosis. Lin Yuan was about to greet his master, the Moon Empress, and Mystic Moon. At that moment, Lin Yuan's stomach growled. When he heard his stomach growling, he subconsciously covered it with his hand. However, Lin Yuan's stomach kept grumbling. At the same time, he instinctively felt an extreme hunger. It was as though all the cells in his body were begging him to eat quickly. He hurriedly took out a soldier grain radish's vine and prepared to eat its leaves. The Moon Empress said, "Little Yuan, don't eat the soldier rations yet. Right now, your body cells are urging you to absorb nutrients, which means that the nutrients in the dishes you just ate aren't enough. If you consume some high-grade ingredients at this time, you can also borrow the geocentric jade milk's east wind to let your body absorb some of the nutritional energy in the high-grade ingredients." Just as the Moon Empress finished speaking, Mystic Moon forcefully suppressed the shock in his heart and replied, "I'll go to the kitchen to prepare now, and try to serve the dishes to His Highness within half an hour." After that, Xianyu walked quickly towards the kitchen. At the same time, He had the spirit servants waiting outside the rear hall come in and clean up the table. Mystic Moon, who had gone to the kitchen to prepare the ingredients, couldn't understand how Lin Yuan's body could absorb so much nutrients and energy. When the Moon Empress was preparing the ingredients, she had already prepared a lot more. Furthermore, a drop of his own blood essence was added into the mix. After thinking for a long time, Xianyu still had no clue. However, based on the changes in Lin Yuan's body just now, Mystic Moon felt that there was really nothing more that could be strengthened. The reason why his body would enter a state of hunger should be that his soul still needed to replenish nutrients. Thus, Xianyu took out another portion of island whale brain oil, as well as some island whale brain oil of similar levels. The ingredients that could nourish the soul were carefully cooked. Chapter 1245. Lin Yuan, who was sitting beside the Moon Empress, had his stomach growling nonstop until he was a little embarrassed. Upon seeing this, the Moon Empress wanted to find a way to distract him. Otherwise, his body would be in a constant state of hunger, which was tantamount to torture. This feeling was 10 times stronger than normal hunger. The Moon Empress flipped her hand, and a golden egg appeared in her hand. The Moon Empress asked Lin Yuan in a very serious tone, "Little Yuan, I showed you a book called Mountain Sea Catalog before. Have you finished the book now?" Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan hurriedly nodded. "I've already finished reading the Mountain Sea Catalog that Master told me to read." Lin Yuan had always had the habit of reading. Therefore, he only took 2 to 3 days to flip through the books that the Moon Empress had asked him to read. However, Lin Yuan could not make head or tail of this Mountain Sea Catalog. He did not know why his master, the Moon Empress, had made him read such mythological books before the Spirit Chi awakening for no reason. The Mountain Sea Catalog was similar to the classic of mountains and seas that he had read in his previous life. However, the Mountain Sea Catalog was much more realistic than the Mountain Sea Scripture. Of course, no matter how realistic these books were, they were still too unbelievable. Lin Yuan answered the Moon Empress question while looking at the pure golden egg in her hand. The eggshell of this egg was engraved with the pattern of a storm, and the pattern of the storm was rotating and rising on the eggshell. It was as if the eggshell was the eye of the storm. The patterns of the storm gave the eggshell a feeling of alternating light and dark. It was as if there was a ferocious bird riding the storm, and hiding in the abyss of the storm, staring at the man. In addition, the golden egg exuded an aura similar to Zhongzai's burning sky roar. Presumably, this golden eggshell was breeding a spiritual creature with the bloodline of famine. The desolation bloodline Fei in this golden eggshell was very likely the one that the Moon Empress had prepared for him. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's answer, the Moon Empress didn't keep him in suspense and replied with a smile. "There's an article in the Mountain and Sea Catalog that says that there's a bird called Golden Wing that doesn't eat anything other than the lungs of a dragon, and doesn't drink anything other than the blood of a phoenix. Do you still have any impression of this introduction about the Golden Wing?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan looked at the golden eggshell, and swallowed his saliva before nodding. "Of course I remember. Master, could the desolate bloodline Fei in this golden egg be the Golden Wing?" When he had been reading the Mountain Sea Catalog, he had flipped through a few pages before reaching the Golden Wing. Lin Yuan had a deep impression of the Golden Wing's introduction. This was because he did not treat the Mountain Sea Catalog as a real knowledge book, and treated it as supernatural literature. Therefore, Lin Yuan's thoughts were not serious. Lin Yuan's first impression of the golden-winged bird was that it was picky. Only the lungs of a dragon, only the blood of a phoenix would be drunk. The golden-winged bird was probably daydreaming. Among Feis, as long as they had a trace of the dragon-type or phoenix-type bloodline, their price would be far higher than ordinary Feis. Those Feis that had awakened the dragon-type and phoenix-type bloodlines might not be able to be bought even if one had the money. These Feis that had awakened a trace of dragon species and phoenix species bloodlines were not real dragons and phoenixes. Lin Yuan suspected that the golden-winged bird recorded in the Mountain Sea Catalog had starved to death because it was picky. However, this golden egg told Lin Yuan that the Feis in the Mountain Sea Catalog were real. These Feis should be the Radiance Federation's unique desolate bloodline Feis. This made Lin Yuan's impression of the golden-winged bird that would not eat anything other than the lungs of a dragon, or the blood of a phoenix. How powerful would it be if it became a golden-winged bird that ate dragon's lungs and drank phoenix's blood? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Moon Empress nodded. The desolate bloodline Fey in this golden egg is the golden wing. The Mountain Sea Catalog's record of the desolate bloodline Fey is also basically true. Little Yuan, although you've consumed the geocentric jade milk, causing both your soul and body to transform, you might still have to suffer if you want to contract the golden wing. Back then, when Master contracted Zishi, he suffered a lot. The desolate bloodline Fays are unruly, and it is much harder to contract a desolate bloodline Fey than a marrow contract with a sacred source life form. Later, when you contract the golden wing, the sacred source life form that you previously contracted will be of some assistance. You have to remember, during the contract process, you must firmly suppress the golden wing's will. Otherwise, after the contract, the master-slave relationship will likely be swapped. But little Yuan, don't be fooled by how difficult it is to contract a desolate bloodline Fey. Once the desolate bloodline Fey is contracted, the desolate bloodline Fey will be like your other Feys. They will be good companions that accompany you for life. While speaking, the Moon Empress handed the golden wing's egg to Lin Yuan. In a short while, Mystic Moon commanded the spirit attendants to serve another table of dishes. After eating the dishes again, Lin Yuan no longer felt as unbearable as before. Soon, Lin Yuan realized that as the soul in his mind, which had not contracted a sacred source life form, absorbed enough nutrients and energy, his body's hunger disappeared. His body's transformation was finally complete. Because the desolate bloodline Fey had to compete with the desolate bloodline Fey's will, it could not be disturbed. Therefore, Lin Yuan went to his breeding room after the meal and closed the door. According to the Moon Empress instructions, he sliced open his palm. He used his blood and soul power to wrap the golden wing's eggshell at the same time. The moment Lin Yuan's blood and soul power were sucked into the golden eggshell covered with storm patterns, Lin Yuan felt that he suddenly appeared in the eye of the hurricane. In the eye of the hurricane, Lin Yuan felt the violent aura that filled his body and prepared to release his will. Suddenly, Lin Yuan felt that a boundless beast was awakening in the wind. Moreover, this awakened boundless beast was staring at him in the chaotic and violent wind. Lin Yuan's expression did not change in the slightest. Lin Yuan had clearly been in the Radiant Moon Palace's breeding room. However, after using his blood and soul power to wrap the eggshell, he had appeared here. It was very likely that his soul had entered the golden eggshell. What he saw was the scene inside the golden eggshell. Lin Yuan remembered that his master, the Moon Empress, had said that he wanted to contract the golden wing. He was destined to have a battle of wills with the golden wing. Since it was a battle of wills, it did not matter if he took the initiative to attack. In any case, the golden wing's will would eventually collide with his. Therefore, Lin Yuan only needed to stick to his heart. However, he recalled that his master, the Moon Empress, had said that even if he consumed the geocentric jade milk, he would still suffer. Lin Yuan's heart subconsciously tightened. Previously, whether it was using the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar to wash away the impurities in his body, or using the geocentric jade milk to change his body, even his master, the Moon Empress, had not said anything to remind him. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1246. Since it had reminded him this time, it was very likely that he would suffer from contracting the golden wing. It would far exceed the suffering he had suffered when he had taken the geocentric jade milk to be reborn. Before waiting for the golden wing's will to find him, Lin Yuan had already released his will. He let his will fill the surrounding environment. Lin Yuan was currently in the world inside the golden eggshell. Lin Yuan's figure inside the golden eggshell was a product of his soul manifestation. As Lin Yuan continued to release his will into the surrounding environment, behind Lin Yuan's body formed by his soul, a shadow formed by his will appeared. This will shadow was Lin Yuan's appearance, but it was thousands of times larger than the body formed by Lin Yuan's soul. Lin Yuan's will was strong to begin with. When he had just taken the geocentric jade milk, Lin Yuan's will had been strengthened to the extreme. At that moment, the huge figure formed by Lin Yuan's will felt like it was about to break through the storm. Lin Yuan sensed the shadow formed by his will behind him. However, Lin Yuan did not notice that the wrist of the shadow formed by his will was also wrapped around a copper ring formed by his will. At that moment, a cry that could cut through metal and stone sounded in the storm. After this cry, the wind and clouds surged around the eye of the storm. Lin Yuan looked up and saw a giant bird that could cover the sky staring at him with cold and sharp eyes. This giant bird that covered the sky had a strong and elegant body, and its golden wings were engraved with wind patterns. The slight flap of each feather could form a violent tornado. Thousands of violent tornadoes shuttled back and forth in the giant golden bird's wingspan, sweeping up everything that could be touched. The giant bird's eyes were heroic and sharp, and its dark golden pupils were alienated and contemptuous of everything. The slender and sharp claws under its abdomen seemed to be able to easily grab a dragon's heart with its claws. Its sharp beak could easily tear off a phoenix's neck and suck the blood hidden in the phoenix's neck. What kind of majestic giant bird was this? Lin Yuan felt that it was a little hard to describe. If Lin Yuan's previous body formed by his will was already a huge creature, then Lin Yuan's will was standing in front of this giant golden-winged bird. At that moment, Lin Yuan's will stood in front of this giant golden-winged bird like a baby standing in front of an adult. With this gap, Lin Yuan immediately knew just how powerful Golden Wings will was with the desolate bloodline. Lin Yuan recalled that his master, the Moon Empress, had said that sacred source life forms could help him in this battle of wills. Thus, Lin Yuan called out to the princess. Immediately after, an even larger phantom appeared behind the phantom formed by Lin Yuan's will. This figure was a woman with a dress fluttering in the wind. Her eyes were tightly shut, and her hands were crossed over her chest in a defensive posture. When the golden-winged will saw the princess's figure, which was almost half the size of its body, behind Lin Yuan, it felt as if it had been provoked. It immediately let out an even more intense cry. Lin Yuan could clearly feel that the golden wings will was crushing toward him under this cry. Lin Yuan had thought that he would have to fight a tough battle, where he would lose more than he would win. At that moment, the bronze bracelet on Lin Yuan's illusory wrist shone brightly. The copper ring separated from Lin Yuan's wrist and collided with the golden-winged figure that could cover the entire world. It felt like a speck of dust was about to land on an eagle's body. However, it was this inconspicuous copper ring that kept growing when it collided with the golden wing's huge body. In the end, the enlarged copper ring tightly wrapped around the golden wing's neck. The golden wings will seem to be imprisoned by the copper ring. Under the restraint of the copper ring, it was difficult for the golden-winged will to be released. At the same time, Lin Yuan could clearly feel the golden wing's instinctive fear of the copper ring on its neck. It was as if the golden-winged, which had the desolate bloodline, and the copper ring were not on the same level. Lin Yuan had also felt the same feeling from the Princess Royal. Lin Yuan could not be more familiar with the copper ring on the golden wing's neck. This copper ring was Morbius. Lin Yuan was very surprised by this. As a contractor, Lin Yuan was very clear about Morbius's state. Morbius was currently in a deep slumber. Could it be that this scene was an instinctive reaction of Morbius during its slumber? In addition, Lin Yuan had guessed more than once what level of Fey Morbius was at. Morbius' strength had now reached the Silver X/Fantasy I level. Even with such strength, Morbius was still unable to see its species clearly, just like at the beginning. Moreover, Morbius's type was mystic. Apart from Morbius, Lin Yuan had never found any phase or source-type lifeforms that were also mystic. Lin Yuan had originally thought that he and the golden-winged will would have an intense collision. However, it seemed that the golden-winged will was completely controlled by Morbius. There was no room for struggle. Lin Yuan took this opportunity to inject his will into the golden-winged body to suppress it. As a result, Lin Yuan found that with Morbius's help, he easily suppressed the golden-winged will. After Lin Yuan suppressed the golden wing's willpower, the chaotic gale around him instantly turned into a gentle breeze. At the same time, the dissipation of the eye of the storm caused the time formed by the wind to distort and shatter. Lin Yuan also felt a sense of weightlessness. By the time Lin Yuan came back to his senses, He had already appeared in the breeding room again. Fine cracks appeared on the golden eggshell in his hand at that moment. Upon hearing the clacking sounds coming from inside the eggshell, Lin Yuan saw a small bird's beak penetrate the eggshell. Finally, a golden-winged bird about the same size as Chimey emerged from the eggshell. Upon seeing the wet feathers on the golden-winged bird, Lin Yuan hurriedly took out a square towel from the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box and covered the golden-winged bird. The golden-winged bird could not even stand steadily in Lin Yuan's hand, but it was the same as Zhongzai's burning sky roar. It had the unique aura of a desolate bloodline fae. In addition to the introduction of the golden-winged bird's diet, the Mountain Sea Catalog also had other records of the golden-winged bird. The golden-winged bird spreads its wings, its abdomen covers the sky, its claws are like a ravine, and it cuts off rivers and peaks. From this, it could be seen that the golden-winged bird was an abnormally large desolate bloodline fae. Its attack method mainly relied on its powerful physical body. However, the Mountain Sea Catalog's introduction of the golden-winged bird's meaning was refining the wings as a nascent soul, and its body is connected to time. Lin Yuan really did not understand. In Lin Yuan's interpretation, it seemed to say that the golden-winged bird could obtain the ability to control time when it went through some kind of change. However, what exactly did the ability to control time refer to? Lin Yuan thought about it for a long time but did not have any clues. 166 Reading Network. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.